Okay, hang on. Hello, folks, and welcome back to the program with Chris live in Central Pennsylvania. And I've got a special guest today, none other than author, artist, musician, stage, television. Oh, yeah, okay, father. Yeah, we're not going to get into those jokes yet, there, but we'll get into those Ronaldo Chus jokes here in a couple of minutes. But none other than the legendary Steve Hofmeyr, whom I'm going to have to chastise before I greet him. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve kindly came on my program in 2000. And he was on the program for 2 hours, and he and I talked like we'd known each other for 30 years after I gave him permission to call me Chris because he was trying to call me Colonel. And we talked for 2 hours, and finally I said, you know what, I better cut it off or this guy will never come back on the program. And apparently I went too long because it has been now 5 years since Steve Hofmeyr has been on the program. Steve, hochandet.
I will never forget that. It was during COVID. I was at the coast, and there was a usual power cuts going on in South Africa as they were at that time, and eventually I was like glued to really to a small little globe of a light right here, and I could only see you and hardly hear the questions, and we still sat there speaking for 2 hours. So I have saluted you ever since, and thank you very much. You're still my favorite colonel outside the continent, and I'm gonna, as an old soldier, I'll have to salute you for that. But then again, I also know you as Chris, and what a lot of fun we have. We don't always have cameras by, but I'm on your program, and I'm honored, and anything under the sun you're willing to discuss. I must tell you how disillusioning it is to speak to someone who knows your country better than yourself. And you know South Africa well. You know the stats. It's always wonderful to listen to you. You inform me of what's happening in South Africa, then I tell South Africans, and they think I'm informed.
Yeah, I noticed that, Steve. I want some residuals. You're doing a lot of, you're stealing my content, putting it on your Monday Strom. What's going on there, man?
I'm using you as my researcher unofficially. You're doing a hell of a job.
Well, thanks for that. Listen, Steve, I want to talk to you about music to get started here today, but just for the audience, when I saw you last, you had put a new album together, and I think if you just released it or you're about to release it. Is that true?
That's right. Well, the last album I released was my first digital album, not something that I had in mind. I'm from the old school. We still remember records, CDs, and of course, cassettes, and then we tried out the little USB stick for a while, which I'll still do, but there it is. But all in all, it's all digital now. And if I say album, it's not something you're ever going to hold in your hand again like in the old days, but it's out there on your Deezers and Spotify's and iTunes. So I released 8 songs this year, and all of them charted. 3 of them went to #1 in South Africa. So I must say, I'm as an older person, I'm feeling quite with it as far as the digital era is going.
Well, I'm glad you shared that because I read some authoritative South African media journalists who claimed that you were past it. I thought that was entertaining. I've been to your concerts, and if you're past it, I want to know what with it is, because I mean the number of people that show up at your concerts is amazing.
Yeah, we recently had a concert cancelled because there was about 5 to 8,000 tickets sold. And then, of course, your left-wing media can't help to jump on the fact and say that, shame he's not popular anymore. What's going to happen? And I always want to ask them, could you just tell me which South African artist that you follow is obviously so popular that my numbers seem to be insignificant, and they can never answer that. But I'm still around. I will stay for as long as people want to hear me, and not a day longer. But I'm having the greatest time of my career. It's 40 years later. The audiences are bigger. The music, the digital music has outsold now, has outdone the old analog sales and the old CD sales and the album sales. So I don't know. When I was a younger guy, I toured with the older singers, and some of them were already 80 and plus. You have Willie Nelson, and he's still singing. I met Christopherson on tour when he came to South Africa, and he was already 80 something, and he was still sounding good. Neil Diamond, I believe, I don't think he's singing anymore, but he did until quite recently. So I think in singing we don't retire, we don't go on pension, we just keel over on stage.
Yeah, the challenge for Neil Diamond, unfortunately, is he developed dementia or Alzheimer's, and I think it was dementia. And so, he had not sung for about 4 or 5 years, and they did this stage play on Broadway about Neil Diamond, and they played Sweet Caroline, and no one had heard him sing publicly for like 4 years. And he got up, and his mind snapped back in shape, and he sang a full verse of it, and people were in tears. It was absolutely amazing. Of course, you do a lot of Neil Diamond tribute stuff, an amazing artist.
Oh man, if I was there, big man as I am, I would just burst into tears and cry. You know, he's the soundtrack of our nostalgia, of our lives. He was probably the only two countries where he was as popular as in America was Australia and South Africa. You know, we absolutely adore Neil Diamond and the songs they speak to us. Yeah, you have great stars. There's nothing we can teach you about music. I follow gladly in the steps of some of the greatest singers in the world, and I'm afraid Neil Diamond's gonna have to be up there with the top 10, top 5. I actually have my lists here of top singers. We can go through it later, but Neil Diamond has to be up there.
Well, I'd have to.
I'll give you a clue.
Okay.
LA's fine, sun shines most of the time. I'm not going to sing anymore because then digitally they're going to flag you for copyright.
Exactly.
That kind of thing. Come on, it's Neil Diamond. I love it.
Yeah. Now, so I have to agree with you. I think he's one of the top 10. But, you know, you're speaking about the digital music and the thumb drives, USBs, and a little anecdotal story here, which some of my audience knows, but not all of it. And I kind of tipped you off to it, but I still want to see a reaction. So when I saw you last, you gave me that album here, and thank you for that. The only problem is that whoever manufactured it, the quality was not so great. So that the title of the album, it's already scratched off. But I can remove the top here, and I can actually put it in, and I can listen to your music. So it's fantastic. But, the person that I know who knows more about music than anybody is Monty Jackson. And Monty, when I saw him before I saw you, Monty also gave me his latest album he put together, which is fantastic. At least I think it's fantastic. Let me tell you why I think it's fantastic. Now, they did put a sticker on here, so it's I can see that. I can still read it. It didn't wear off like the paint did on yours. But the thing about Monty's is that when Monty called me, I had a meet and greet at Vanderbilt Park, and about 150 people showed up. They left, and I was sitting down with one of my viewers who set up the meet and greet. She was having coffee. I was getting some dinner because I hadn't eaten all day. And we're sitting there, and Monty said, I still want to come over because he's not too far from Vanderbilt Park. And so Monty calls and says, hey, I'm going to come over. And I put him on speaker, and I said, do you mind if Ronelle joins us? She's here. He goes, no, it's not at all. I'm going to come over, and I'm going to give you my stick. And I'm like, Monty, that's not the best thing to say. That didn't come across right. I mean, I think you translated directly from Afrikaans in your head to English, but I don't really want your stick. I'm just saying. So,
yeah. No, we have that problem, and it's even worse in Afrikaans, because we say, I want your stock. That even sounds worse in Afrikaans. But we don't want to call it a USB or whatever. We call it a stock, So listen, every night I've got 3 or 4 70-year-old ladies that come to my show and say, Steve, on soek jou stock, which means we want your stick. And I always tell them it's not a stick, it's a stocky. It's a small stick. It's like a USB. You also put it into things and it makes people very happy, but there's music coming out of it. Buy one. Luckily, having an older audience, I never had to get rid of my CDs. They still sell at the shows, for the older audience. But for the stick is good fun and easier to travel with when you go abroad.
In fact, Ronelle is in the conversation right here in the chat. She goes, "Oh yes, I remember. That was hilarious." Yeah, but here's the problem with Monty's stocky. It's broken. I can't use it because the cap won't come off.
Yeah. All right. So please, I'll tell him that although my paint is inferior, his entire stick is a little shitty. He's going to have to work on the quality there. Exactly. But he is a great artist, and I'm glad you like him. I have a lot of time for him. He's a bit of an encyclopedia of country music in the world and South African music, especially Afrikaans music.
No, he absolutely is, and he knows every freaking artist. I mean, everywhere throughout time frames, in every genre too. He could talk about blues music in the States. I mean, I've never met anyone that knows music and artists as deeply as he does. He's just a walking treasure trove of that. It's funny because he and I were talking about the Refugee program, and he goes, Chris, I haven't been interested in it because what would they want from me? I don't have any education. What can I do? I'm like, Monty, you entertain people. That's like the greatest gift you could have. I mean, Steve, I think if you can entertain people, I try to do that a little bit, although I have no singing ability, and we all know that. That's true. But Steve, you infamously once forced me on the stage and choked me and forced me into singing the Ballad of the Green Beret with you.
I did. I thought if there's one guy who's going to know all the lyrics, it was you. And well, you didn't, but you know the song.
Yeah,
and on the visuals on the back, on the LED screen, there's an American soldier who does a salute at the end, and I turn around and I salute him back. I think us soldiers share something universal, I suppose. But I was proud to do the song, and I was proud to have you on stage. No, I think there's a future for you on stage. Come on, I think you can do it. You can talk, you can sing.
Well, I don't know about singing, but I can certainly talk. But the video of that, because I was recording from down the stage, and you started speaking Afrikaans, and you said something the equivalent of, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a friend of the Boers, of the Afrikaners of South Africa, who's here tonight. He's an American. I'm like, I think he's talking about me. And so I started listening more closely. And then you called me up on stage. And this was, not too long after the COVID nonsense. And you put your arm over my shoulder and you pulled me in, danger close, COVID danger close. And I was a little uncomfortable because I've been close before. So the video, I'm kind of like leaning outwards to try to get away from you, because it was like you were singing, what's her name? You were singing the song with Demi Lee, that where Amanda, and I felt like it's like you singing, it's like you're singing Amanda to me. I feel a little uncomfortable here, so I kind of lean back.
All right, so all this sexual liberation stuff from America hasn't worked with you yet. I thought I'd just give you a nice little old bro hug on stage. I saw that. I saw the video. It was
a nice bro. But I put that on YouTube and got a copyright strike for a cover song. Come on.
Oh yeah, they do that. They do that, John. So it's complicated. It's complicated.
Yeah. So eventually, I put it on to Twitter.
Yeah. I get copyright strikes for placing my own music on there because it has to go through the right channels, which means the label or the record company that you signed up to. So it is quite complex. Well, okay, somebody's policing it for us, but it is making it complex. And then because of that kind of problem, you'll get another kind of problem, which happens because of that, and that's AI. So if we can't share our music liberally, something else is going to happen, and it's happened. We will slowly be replaced, it seems. Yeah, it has, big time, and it's wonderful what it can do. I use it as an aid all the time, and I have for about 2 years already. It's a beautiful thing to have. But yeah, we're all looking at our own extinction. Watch out. As Elon Musk said about a week ago, 20 years from now, he believes that work will be optional. What an interesting statement to make. I saw Matt Walsh hated the idea, but yeah, I can see it happening as technology improves.
Well, I mean, I think from a social standpoint, that's a very big concern, because so many people, their lives are defined by what they are and what they do. And if they're not working anymore,
well, exactly.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem.
Exactly. Our work defines us. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I really think it's going to be a problem. But, let's talk about the artificial intelligence. So last night, I typed up some lyrics in English. I put some Afrikaans in there that I knew, because I can't write in Afrikaans, although I understand it. And then I used Gemini to convert my lyrics and put a little flesh out for the theme I was going for and the genre. And it gave it to me. But I made a mistake at the bottom when I pasted it into Suno to generate the artist and generate the music. At the bottom of the song, it said in Afrikaans, and I was rushing because I was on air. I did this all on air. At the bottom, it said, basically, do you like this style, or should I change it to another style? And that got incorporated into the song. So the song was brilliant, but but I can't have that. So at the end, it goes Steve Hofmeyr, and then it says, do you like the lyrics, or would you like to change it to an actual song? I'm like, oh God. So I went and I made a pop version with female vocals, which was okay. It's kind of like some Heimatmusik, as we say in German. But then I did another country. I sent you the version. I asked my audience, do you think it's a tribute song, or do you think Steve will like it? About 90% of the people liked it. So here's the question, Steve. You've listened to it. What's the verdict? Do you like it?
I like it a lot. If it wasn't self-aggrandizing, I would actually publish it on my own site or Facebook or somewhere. But thank you very much. I really appreciated that. We have, like you guys in America, for the first time in our lives, have AI songs actually charting. I know you had a #1 country song in America, and all the singers were going, oh goodness gracious, it's on us. Everything we predicted in the sci-fi movies in the 80s and 90s is actually happening. And in South Africa, we've had the same debates. Although already a year and a half ago, I released a song in a duet with AI. I had a massive competition. People had to guess who I was singing with, and nobody could, of course. And towards the end, I said I was singing with nobody. It doesn't exist. It's an algorithm. The girl sounds a little Dutch, but it passed for Afrikaans. And that's already a year and a half ago. I knew this thing is going to go. It's going to change our lives completely. Music will never be the same again. But I loved your song. Thank you very much. I won't be able to sing it, but if somebody else wants to sing it, I'll be honored to hear it again.
Well, maybe we can get Rikus and Bok van Blerk and a few of the boys together and get them to sing it for you.
Pay tribute to the old singers.
Yeah, the old salt.
I love it.
The old salt. So now there's a comment from where's that? Denise Hesselman said she met Steve in the early 70s when I worked for Gallo Africa. He was such a hunk back then. Okay, not to get into the stereotypes, but Denise, you don't have any offspring from that time frame, do you? I just asking there. People are always joking around about Steve having kids all over the country, so I thought maybe I'd ask that one.
Yeah, I'm a fruitful a fruitful gentleman from South Africa, working on the white population explosion. Kind of backfired. It was only me doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you need a little help
I
with
have
that.
6 beautiful children today.
You need a little help with that. There are a lot of people.
A lot of help with that. But people watching the TV shows I was making in the 80s and 90s, and I was making the children. What the hell? What kind of deal was that anyway? Yeah, today I'm very proud of them. There's a 29-year difference between my oldest and youngest daughter. Isn't that incredible?
Well, I know a couple of your kids, including your youngest daughter, and she's, as we say in German, she's goldish. She's absolutely adorable, a lovely child.
She is. She's running around here. I can hear her.
Yeah, no, it's always fun when I come over and visit. So AI, Steve. I mean, you seem, I don't want to say embrace it. Maybe you're embracing it. I don't know if it's the right verb, but certainly you recognize it and you realize it's here. Yeah. It's kind of like the switch from vinyl to CD. You know, it's here. You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
And so you've got to adjust to it as an artist. But a lot of artists are terrified it's going to replace them. I think that it can be something, but to me, until you produce an avatar that looks and sounds identically like a human that can perform on stage and have the mannerisms of a human, artists are still going to be needed. I think that's important. I mean, like for instance, for you, your shows are so much about your stage presence. And I can say that unequivocally, having gone to your shows, it's really about, it's like when I go to watch Francois van Gogh, it's not just the music, it's him on the stage and his antics and things he does. Yeah. I think that there's still a place for artists, but yeah, AI is definitely charting. I understand that 31% of the top charting songs in the US now are AI.
Yeah. That is just incredible. That is a bit scary. They're going to have to start making AI charts just for AI songs. If they wanted to separate them, of course, I think it'll be good. You listen to our stages in which you listen to music or the way you deal with art. Firstly, you hear the song somewhere. You will hear it. It'll be an order, a radio song, for instance. You don't know who sings it, and you like the song or you don't. Then eventually you get a little more involved and you try and find out who the singer is, and you could find out who he is. In the old days on the record sleeves, we had information about the artist, or at least the lyrics on that. But then you go into the next step in this commitment, and that is to go to a live performance of this artist. If you can do it in your lifetime, and you will do that with your greatest artists. Try and meet them, but see them live. So it seems that this last bit, as far as connections go, this last bit will be the hardest for AI to imitate. But as far as the audio experience goes and what you can hear in the music and if you're going to like it or not, I'm afraid the standard has been upped by AI, and it's not going down. It's not deteriorating. From here onwards, we're going to have to up our game to sound like that, to write like that, and to just to capture again some of the original ideas why we started music in the first place millions of years ago. So I think the live artist is still safe for a while, unless they're going to send some hologram Steve Hofmeyr down the West Coast for a tour. I think the live artist is still fairly safe. I have no ethical problem as much as other people do with the AI, because I remember 5 different debates about ethics as far as music goes and as technology came in. Right in the beginning, when we used the backtrack for certain shows, as I do as well, the orthodox artist would come to you and say, listen, this is not right. You should have a band on stage, even though nobody missed the band. Nobody asked for the band. And of course, in South Africa, we tour smaller than America. We go to smaller venues, can't always afford a band. The interesting thing was that the band member who accused me of being unethical and keeping bands out of work by using, let's say, a backtrack, forgot that they had a keyboard on stage, and that keyboard had a little button, and that button said strings. And the moment you press that old button and you hear beautiful strings, there's a whole strings section out of work. So you got to be careful when you start attacking technology if you're using it. And you got to be critical about it. Everybody uses it. We've used it forever in studios, especially the auto tuning, which artists like to use live as well now. It's incredible how much we've done. But if you own a car or a cell phone and a remote control, you are basically already employing AI in your life, and you should be careful about pointing to certain people who could be unethical about it. So AI is going to up the game for all of us. I think it's going to make us tougher. I'm enjoying it so far. It's complementing my career. But of course, I want to sing and I want to write. I need to write the lyrics. And if I do not write the lyrics, everybody who knows me will know it.
Well, I think it's a fair point, but Steve, the thing too is that so many artists, these big name artists, particularly in America, but not just in America, it's like on the German television shows, they always lip sync, and and that to me that's cheap. That I have a problem with lip syncing. I don't go to a concert and pay $80 or $100 to listen to a band lip sync. I want to hear them sing. I just went to Shania Twain. I just went to Shania Twain recently, and I want to get there before she got a little bit older because she's still looking pretty hot, and she's still got it going on there. But at she's already, I can hear her voice, a little bit of a crack coming, and maybe she had a long tour. That might be what it was. But I knew it was her singing. Obviously, it wasn't lip syncing because you can tell the little break there. And I'm fine with that. I went and listened to Van Morrison a couple years ago, the Outlaw Music Festival, and with Willie Nelson. I didn't go for Willie Nelson. I went for Van Morrison, who's an absolute legend. And he was 74.
Absolutely.
He was 74, and he hit every note. The only thing about Van Morrison is he never sang Brown Eyed Girl, which disappointed me. But he came on the stage on time. He sang the entire time. He did a set, and he was done at 55 minutes, which was his time, and he walked off the stage. An absolutely incredible artist.
Yeah. No. Oh, what I would do to see a Van Morrison concert, absolutely. I don't think he ever came to South Africa. I just wanted to tell you about that. There will be the argument that says that if not for AI, or at least miming, when a person's voice goes, let's say at the age of 70 or older, that artist is never allowed to go on stage again, which is quite sad. But if he could mime and you could tell people that he is, maybe he could prolong his career. But there's a much more threatening thing out there, which I think is going to be the future. The future is going to look slightly different. I think some guys are going to have to copyright the prompts, which means what do you put into the computer to make it sound so good? That's the one point. The second point is called voice cloning, which means I can sing into Suno, for instance. I can keep my voice there. I can improve that voice to make it quite good. And for the rest of my life, that voice will sing the lyrics I type in there, which means already they can clone the graphics, which means 300-400 years after I have died, I can still release albums. Because somebody else writes the lyrics. That's Steve Hofmeyr appearing on the screen because AI is so good. And by God, that's him singing. That's his own voice as well. So that's a crazy little peek into the future of what is possible out there.
Yeah, look, I'm not a big fan of Skynet, and this is why.
Right.
Sarah Connor warned me. Sarah Connor warned me about Skynet. No, but seriously.
Yep. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to you.
But Steve, let me
We're
ask you.
going to watch Chris Wyatt for the next 400 years. We're not going to be around anymore, but they're going to love you, man.
That might be scary. But Steve, let me ask you this question. You're tied to the music community in South Africa. Are other artists in the Afrikaans community in particular, what are they doing? Are they embracing this? I mean, I can't get interviews with Juanita du Plessis and Bulk van Blerk because their labels just they protect them and let them talk to people. So I don't really have a feel for this. I mean, you don't have to speak for any one of them, but what's the sense you're getting from other people? Are they looking at this? Are they trying to embrace it? Are they running away from it? Or what's the deal?
Well, no different to the old conflicts we had about the backtrack versus the band and the band, because I like using it all. Also, as an artist, I hate it when another artist comes to me and gives me a long list of things I'm not allowed to do. Especially if they're legal. Isn't that what art is about? It's about going over those limitations, reaching out for new horizons. So that is the one thing. I think we're probably not split in half. I think there's a third out there, but people are more acquainted. They love technology. Everybody is using it. Nobody wants to sound hypocritical. They might just use it in the future as well. There will be a small group of radicals who go, you can never do that. The artist is a guy who puts a guitar. He must be able to play an instrument. He put the guitar in his lap and he writes a song in the back of a combi on the way to Jeffrey's Bay. And that is what true art is all about. And you have to suffer to get it right. But most of those old traditions don't hold anymore. One of the great things of being an artist is someone complained that everybody who is Afrikaans and white sings about hunting and farming, and they know nothing about farming or hunting for that matter. But then again, I warned them that you don't have to break up with a girl. You don't have to wait to break up with a girl to sing a song about it. We write about it all the time, about unrequited love, and you don't have to wait for the experience to happen. We're using our imaginations here. So I would say there's a small group out there, mostly I would say the original band members, the people who actually go out there and play. And maybe there is a threat to their existence. And, there are some rockers that I really don't want to see with backtracks or an AI. I never want to see Axl Rose with a backtrack. I want to see him with a band. I want to see real guitarists. I don't want to see Corin Zoid on a backtrack or using AI, they are real rockers, and that's what that genre asks for. But in the other genres, not so much. I remember talking about the miming thing many years ago when the dance boy bands became quite big, especially from America. They had to, in some concerts anyway, it seems, warn on their tickets that they were not singing live. Not sure if that was entirely fair, because if you're Madonna and you're going to dance for 2 hours, there's no way that I can believe that you can sing full voice for 2 hours. You know, I hardly move on stage, and I can't finish a 2-hour concert. So I'm not too harsh on the artists. I'm not going to prescribe to artists what they should do. I think we should all still concentrate on copyright. Don't abuse it. Don't use other people's music. Try and stay original. All those basic things still count. But all in all out there, I think the majority of Afrikaans artists embrace the idea.
Well, that's good to hear, because, I mean, they're going to have to deal with it whether they like it or not. I mean, it's just the nature of where things are headed. So one of the viewers, Fleshen, who's a Welshman who's confused because he lives in England, but one of our viewers, Fleshen, up there in the UK, he lives in Oxford, the 15-minute city, and it's a lot longer than 15 minutes. It took us a half hour to walk back to my car. But anyway, when I was there. But Fleshen said he saw Tom Jones in Spain this year, and he's 85, and he was amazing. Listen, I was in Vegas.
Man,
yeah, good.
Stop doing this. Tom Jones.
Oh, I know.
You know, my number one artists, vocalists of all time, women and male and female, both come from the same country, Wales. Apart from the fact that we beat them 73-0 in a rugby game, I need you to know that my two favorite singers come from your country if you're from Wales, and that is Tom Jones and Shirley Bassey, for that matter.
There you go.
Both from the same country, just incredible. And don't write in, don't tell us in the commentaries that you saw them live, because it upsets me, because I'll never get to do that.
Well, I'm going to upset you even more, because I have a fantastic memory. In 1997, I was going to the counterintelligence course in Arizona, and one of my classmates said, hey, let's go to Vegas for the weekend. I'm like, okay. So we got a Southwest flight. We flew to Vegas, stayed in a crappy hotel, Circus. I mean, that's time passed in the 60s, not the 90s. And anyway, we went to the MGM Grand, and Tom Jones was playing. And it was like $52 for a ticket, which seemed like a lot of money at the time. But I'm like, Tom Jones, it was front row. We were sitting in the front row. So Tom Jones comes out. Man. He's like 55, I think, at the time, or 54. He's in his prime. He's out there, and he starts singing, "It's Not Unusual." Anyway, and he's singing, right? And I'm like, what the heck? And like, panties hit me in the ear. Women were throwing their panties on stage. So I'm like, no way. Fortunately, they were unused panties. They were not previously used. But I'm like, okay. So I just took them and tossed them on the stage, and people cheered when I tossed them on the stage.
And everybody went, you know, it's so nice to see gay people here as well. Thank you very much, Chris, for your panty.
You know, it's funny you mentioned no, people saw me get hit. They were laughing about it, but not that there's anything wrong with that. No, but it's funny because you were talking earlier about writing lyrics, and I think getting going along the lines that you don't necessarily have to have been in love with someone to write lyrics about being in love with someone. You know, I mean, so many actors and so many musicians are actually gay, and they have a male persona on stage or on screen. And like Rock Hudson, you know, he was gay, and he played a big hunky male performer. And a lot of musicians who are gay, they write love songs about women, and you know, you have no idea they're gay because they just pulled off because they're just that good.
Yeah, some want to declare it, some don't. Doesn't really matter. I think Freddie Mercury didn't have a problem with it. Others try and keep it quiet. They think it'll damage their careers. I don't know. I don't understand it. You know, I'm the most heterosexual, straightest singer in history, so I can't speak on behalf of them. I don't know of the pain they go through to be an artist, but in the artist community, there's much more acceptance of all the sidelined characters for whatever reason it is. You know, we're a very inclusive group, and I still come from the acting world as well, and also there I think we're probably outnumbered if you're really, you know, hetero, cis, whatever they call us.
Well, I got to be honest with you. We've talked about this before, and that's, I mean, I didn't know about your music. I didn't even know you sang music. I first saw you on Steven Delan. That's when I first came across you, because I watched that to learn Afrikaans, and so I saw you on those old shows, and then later found out you sang music. I'm like, this guy sings music. I had no idea. So to me,
right there in the back. Let me see if I can do it this side. There is me, my 23-year-old me, in a series that was massive in South Africa. It was called Agter Elke Man, which means behind every woman. This was the second season. It's a 52 episode season. Yeah, so it started off as a young man acting. You'll see some posters behind me. If I turn sideways, you'll see some other movies. I was in some English movies like that one. And
Well, in
I
fact,
like the acting. It is a good beginning of a career, but I always wanted to sing even before that, and I eventually got to do that.
well, in fact, in the song that I drafted, I put in the lyrics. I put in an Octaman. I also put in a Toygon.
That's right.
Yeah, I put the movie in there because that was a brilliant movie as well. Yeah, so I mean, but that's how I first came to know who Steve Hofmeyr was, and so not the music. So the music to me was interesting. But so let's run through this. You've got a list there of your greatest artist ever. Why don't you tell us who you think the greatest artist ever? I think people want to know.
Well, let me tell you where this comes from. When I recorded
is it AI?
No, it's not. No. This is true life. In fact, if people read this, they don't need to read an autobiography of any sort. When I was about, let's make it 1997, I got a phone call from Belgium. And the lady on the other side was Dana Winner, and she needed someone who does a bit of a Neil Diamond voice, and they were going to do You Don't Bring Me Flowers at the Vorst Nationale, which was a very big venue in Belgium. And I flew over there and did the song with her. We recorded the song as well in a Dutch version of it. And Dutch does not come naturally to me, I must let you know, although our language derives from it. That song went to number 2 in Belgium. And while I recorded there, I stayed in a studio which had a kind of a hostel effect over it. And I was the only guy there waiting to record. And there was a book lying around there by Nick Hornby. And the book was called High Fidelity. And it's also a very famous movie. And the lead in the story or the movie lives obsessively by lists. He keeps lists like these. Anything from his top favorite bands, his top singers with strange smiles, deformities, whatever. And the whole beautiful story goes about that he also kept lists of his ex-girlfriends, and then before he died, he tried to reach them all again to say he's sorry. So that bug bit me, and I started compiling my lists. So now, 30, 40 years later, it's really an obsession, and I can tell you my favorite best rock power ballads. I can show you my favorite all-time songs before the year 2000. I can tell you my greatest duets, my top South African bands, my all-time favorite artists, what have I got? Favorite country songs, my top 10 country songs. Maybe I should start with that, my top country greats. But it doesn't stop with just music. It goes into movies, and it's a long list of favorite movies. I don't have them all here, but I have the music here. So, all right, my top 10 country songs. I'm going to start with number 10, which is Tips of My Fingers. For South Africans, it was a hit by Peter V. In America, it was a guy, Eddie Arnold. And then Woman, Beautiful Woman, Don Gibson. Rhinestone Cowboy at number 8. That's Glenn Campbell, of course. Crossfire, the Bellamy Brothers. Golden Ring was George Jones and Tammy Wynette. And I will never forget the duet they had to do many years after they had been divorced. And they still had to sing this damn love song about breaking up. At number 5, I have Georgie by Pussycat, which was a Dutch band. I always wondered if they were big in America because they were great in our lives. And then, of course, George Jones, again at number 4, He Stopped Loving Her Today. Now, many times when there's a hit parade for greatest country song of all times in America, it seems that George Jones takes the first place with that song. My number 3 greatest country song of all time is The Gambler, Kenny Rogers. My number 2 is Amanda by Don Williams, which I've had a massive hit with in South Africa. And my number 1 greatest country song of all time is Chris Christopherson's Sunday Morning Coming Down. Please tell me there are some Americans who know these songs because they're like anthems to me.
Listen, I mean, I have no singing talent, but I know the lyrics by heart to Glenn Campbell's Rhinestone Cowboy, you know. Getting cards and letters from people and I don't even know. Oh my goodness,
coming over the phone.
What a great freaking song. I mean, I hated country music when I was a kid, but I love that song. It was absolutely amazing. What about, I think one of my favorite country songs. Look, my mother was a Patsy Cline era country back in that time. Yeah. So that was, I got tired of hearing that. I didn't live with my mother a lot when I was a kid, but I mean, it's like my viewers would come on and say, you know, my sister used to listen to Steve Hofmeyr 24 hours a day, so I can't stand his music. So it's just,
I get it all.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. But I didn't start listening to country, and the Oak Ridge Boys kind of got me a little bit into country. I liked the Oak Ridge Boys, the early 80s. And then, of course, I actually got to see Johnny Cash. I think I told you before. I saw Johnny Cash live at the Ohio State Fair when I was in high school because I won in my county and I went to the fair to show my farm stuff. And it was a free concert. I was like, right in the second row or something like that. June Carter Cash. It was what an amazing talent, man. But so Johnny Cash, I liked the Oak Ridge Boys, and then later I kind of get away from it. It wasn't really my thing. Alabama, I liked a bit. They were pretty good. And then later, Shania Twain came along, and kind of went into that. But I never really embraced country until recently. And now I'm loving country music in a way that I never did before. It's really it's a great genre. But what about this song? This I think is one of the all-time greats. It's not on your list, but Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, "Islands in the Stream."
Oh man, that's a big song. Kenny Rogers, next level. Dolly Parton is a god. She's a monument to music, never mind country music. I wanted to tell you about Shania Twain. She's one of the first who really came and made country music sexier than pop music. She was just so drop dead gorgeous. Her husband was a South African, by the way.
Yes, I know. He's like 78 now or something like that, I think. Yeah.
Oh, incredible. Great producer,
yeah, amazing producer.
Yeah, no, wonderful. No, all the ones you've mentioned there, they're all very important. Listen, it's almost impossible to compile a list like this, really. But it does change, and as you get older, it changes reluctantly. It's very difficult to bring a new singer out now that's going to reach my top 5. Yesterday or this morning on Stoom, which means steam in English, which is my Facebook podcast that also goes out on YouTube, I mentioned that it's impossible to appear on my top 10 of all-time books, greatest books. I'm a very avid reader, and I just finished the new Ian McEwan called What We Can Know, and that has made my top 10. So that is a very rare incident where a new he's not a new writer, but a new book comes into my top 10 and replaces anything like Milan Kundera or Ayn Rand or James E. Hilton, really old writers who I've loved all my life.
I want to come back to books in just a moment for an experience I had when we had a bri at your place. But before I get to that, I do want to hear your all-time artist list. Let's get that. And then I want to hear Afrikaans. So what's your all-time top artist? You've got one there. I mean, you've got a bunch of lists. I think people want to hear that.
have it handy. I have my all-time classical music, my all-time operas, my all-time books. They are mostly Afrikaans. Let me just see all-time favorite songs. I've got my best rock power ballads, just because rock bands just make the best ballads. Greatest duets, top SA bands, all-time favorite artists. My all-time favorite artists are interesting. It's very difficult to give you a 1 to 10 kind of thing. But if I can start at about number 10, Def Leppard, Van Halen, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Nazareth, Elvis, Christopherson, Neil Diamond, Bob Seger, Beethoven, Pink Floyd.
Wow.
And then sometimes you'll see Tom Jones comes in later, but sometimes he'll move to number 2. You can't compare Beethoven to Pink Floyd. Oh, actually you can, but you can't compare Beethoven to Bob Seger, for instance.
No.
And for my ultimate rock music, I think Bob Seger is my ultimate. He's so American. I think I was born on the wrong damn continent. I own an old 62 Cadillac.
I've seen it.
And it only works if I play Guns N' Roses and Bob Seger for some other reason. Yeah, so we're all American wannabes.
I'm a bit surprised to see Def Leppard in there.
Yes, they are. And I also had the honor of meeting the drummer in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. But we like them because of our era.
Yeah.
It started with the kind of a sentimentally, commercially kind of rock, but stadium rock still, nevertheless. It was Journey and it was Van Halen. And it was Europe with Final Countdown. I see they're just doing their 40-year tour in Europe next year. Those were my big bands. I suppose Boston. Boston was a huge band of mine. I don't know if they're before my time or after my time, but I just fell in love with them.
I saw Boston live at Iowa State University.
No, Colonel Chris Wyatt, please stop that.
Oh, and Rod Stewart.
It's too late to see most of these bands because they can't regroup or do it because most of the key artists or songwriters or producers are gone.
Yeah. And I also saw Rod Stewart there. And Bonnie Raitt, she rocks. She was amazing.
Love Bonnie Raitt.
Yeah. One thing I like about
Bonnie Raitt is on.
I don't know.
My list of country.
Well, she's up there now herself. But the thing about Bonnie Raitt that I liked at that concert is that she paid it back because a lot of artists, particularly black artists, were cheated out of the residuals back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s by the labels. And a lot of these artists were destitute, didn't have any money. So when she was performing in the 1990s, and I presume she did this afterwards too, but when I saw her in 1990, it was 95, I think it was, or 96 at Iowa State, she had these blues singers and old performers who were black, who were in Motown back in the day, and they were cheated, and they toured with her, and they were amazing. I'd never heard of these people. They're absolutely amazing artists, and she was paying it back by bringing them on because she was inspired by that music when she was a kid and when she was growing up. So I really like that. That's a nice thing to see. But Bonnie Raitt was incredible. I was never a big fan of hers. I listened to her music, kind of okay, and then I went to that concert and I became a huge fan. She's just an amazing artist.
But she's a great artist. She had that duet with the black guy, but he's as good. McDermott, somebody, I don't know if he's famous in America, but I remember that one of her duets that won me over and made her one of my greatest country artists of all time. She's really an incredible singer. I know she had a tough time making it. She also made it later only. Great artist. I'm trying to see if I've got these things. We're just lying here. I'm not. Okay. I don't come prepared. But my best rock power.
Okay, good. I was going to ask the Afrikaans.
Should we try that?
Do that. Then we'll do the Afrikaans. Then we'll move on to another topic.
All right. Some of them are fairly modern bands. Modern for me would be 20 years old, 30 years old. So I'm going to start with "Too Much Love Will Kill You," which was Brian May. Straight from the heart, Brian Adams. I'm going from about 10 back. Creed, Who's Got My Back Now? Alter Bridge. Open Your Eyes. Then I got Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin, it's got to be there. A Heart Alone, the Girls, they were just great. Aerosmith, Dream On, a lot of Aerosmith songs. Europe, Carrie, which is their big ballad. Love Bites, Def Leppard, their big ballad. Remember, these are power ballads, they're not the rock songs. Dire Straits with Brothers in Arms. Bob Seger, We Got Tonight. Ponderosa with Hold On You. I know very few people who know them except for Americans. Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. And my number 2 is Journey, Faithfully, which is a song about a traveling artist. And of course, my number 1 rock song was Nazareth. They were a Scottish band. And that song was called Love Hurts. And everybody who was there in 1970, remember that 6/8 ballad. And the guy who screams called Nazareth, the band. Yeah, that's about it.
Wow, Steve Perry, what a voice, and Journey, I didn't appreciate them. I was in high school when they made it big, and it was just a certain crowd in high school that hung out and listened to that kind of music, and I didn't like that crowd, so I didn't really listen to it. But it's kind of like the Bee Gees. I really appreciate the Bee Gees now, but didn't appreciate them in their prime.
Absolutely. I remember when the Bee Gees came to Pretoria, and I went there. But I sat there for 3 hours. And for 3 hours, they played only songs that they wrote. And you realize that half the songs you remember from other people singing it. Did we say Islands in the Stream? Wasn't that one of the songs that they wrote?
Yeah,
I think it was.
I think they did.
They just kept on doing songs that you say, I know Celine Dion sang that. And that one sang that. But everything was written by Barry Gibb. Incredible.
Yeah, an absolutely amazing, guy, a lyricist, amazing, and they're just the level of those guys are just amazing. But they got a lot of abuse in the States for a while there because they were part of the disco era, and people kind of tarnished the disco era. And I just enjoy the music. Somebody said no Tom Petty. Well, look, there's so many artists, you can't get them all in there. So let's get.
I love Tom Petty.
Yeah, Tom Petty's great. Let's get to your Afrikaans top. This should be an interesting list.
Oh, did I say I've got Afrikaans stuff? Let me see. I have a lot of South African things, which is who are the kings and queen of South African country music. For me, it'll be Lance James, Gene Rockwell, Tommy Oliver, Tommy Dell, Barbara Ray, Bobby Angel, Billy Follis, Clive Bruce, Dennis East, Caroline Dupree, Joanna Fields. A lot of them out here. Let me see if I've got any Afrikaans artists on these lists. I'll be surprised if I do. Beste chunk liedjie ever, which means the best song to cry by. And Crying by Orbison is there. Why Me Lord is there. Cry to Me with the staccatos. The South African version is there. I don't seem to have a list of Afrikaans music. I suppose it's too close to home,
We'll get that in another conversation. So let's shift a little bit here. Hey, folks, you're listening to a conversation with Steve Hofmeyr, artist, actor, musician, legend, dare I say, make him blush a little bit there, turn a little bit pink, but Steve Hofmeyr. And so, Steve, let me shift a little bit. So when I came to your house for a braai on my first big tour to South Africa, when I came back, my I'm Not a Garden Boy tour, by the way, that was the name of that tour. So I'm not the garden boy. When I came in 2022, a mutual friend of ours, I didn't even know that he knew you, that he's a friend of yours, a mate, but I didn't even know he was South African for years because I knew him through LinkedIn, and the name didn't just jump out me as a South African name. Anyway, so I was trying to reach out to you and I sent you a message, which you're busy touring, I think, and say, hey, can we have a coffee or something like that? And he lived near you, and he said, so he sent you a message and gave you crap about not responding to my message, and then you did respond. But I came to your house, and I think a lot of people don't know this about you, and this is why I want to delve into this. So that house, which is a different location where you live now, I went there, and you were a very gracious host. It was fantastic to meet your family. Your kids were there, some of your kids, and your wife, and my friend and your friend. But you wanted to take a break at some point, and you said, let me show you something. And so we followed you up into the stairwell, into this amazing library that was like in a 360 on the walls on a stairwell. And you're like, you show me all these books, and you were like, you weren't showing off, but you were showing me these books that you were proud of. And you're like, this one, I'm like, got it. This one, got it. And most of these books you were showing me about politics and history, and I had them. These were English books. And then you said, but here's my pride and joy. And you took me over, and you said, and you showed me this, and I was just dumbfounded. And I said to you, I said, Steve Hofmeyr, you've done something no one's ever done to me before. And you just stared at me, and I said, you have picked a subject I know absolutely nothing about. Afrikaans poetry.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, right. Well, obviously, listen, it's to my right, as we're sitting here, all that.
Yep.
All that there is Afrikaans poetry. We have a huge Afrikaans poetry library in South Africa. Obviously, due to our history, we brought literacy to the South of Sahara, so we had much of it already in place. Something to be truly proud of. And I bought them all. I've read them all. I've even released a poetry anthology lying right next to me called Falcons, which is the art of falling. Some of these poems have been turned into songs by some of my colleagues. But my poetry anthology, yeah, I suppose poetry, I knew that I would start writing one day once I've read as much poetry as I have. And if you can do that, if you ever want to become a writer, why don't you try the poetry first? And after 10 of those, you will write more lyrically when you get to prose. And that was good advice I got when I was very young, and I actually did that. And it helped. It helped a lot. So when I started writing books, actual thrillers and stories and historical stories, I wrote about 11 books. And I must tell you, starting off with poetry was the best advice I ever got.
No, I think it's fantastic. But again, it's rare that someone can engage me in a conversation I know absolutely nothing about. But I know nothing about Afrikaans poetry. I was completely lost. I was really impressed by that. But what I want to convey to people is that all the books were important to you, but that is what struck a chord with your heart, is the Afrikaans poetry. Yeah. It was so important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have a very famous poet in Afrikaans. All of them have passed away already. Her name was Elizabeth Abers. She's like the matriarch of Afrikaans poetry, and she moved out of South Africa many years ago. She lived in Amsterdam. She kept on writing Afrikaans poetry and twice received one of the most prestigious awards for poets in Amsterdam without ever writing Dutch. She kept on writing in Afrikaans. So for me, like I did with E.E. Cummings when I was in New York, I have to go sit on your steps where you sat when you wrote that to get a feel for you. I did this with Beethoven. I did it with Goethe. I tried to do it with Shakespeare, although we know very little of him. And I did it with Afrikaans artists. I would just go knock on their door and say, Miss Abers, this is Steve Hofmeyr. I know you don't know who I am, but I really need to just say hi. And through the door came this thin little voice saying, Mr. Hofmeyr, I also get the Huisgenoot, which is like the People's Magazine. You know, it's a bit of a gossip magazine. And it started like that. She opened the door. She made me come inside. We had tea. I said to her, this is my favorite poem of yours. And she said, I can't read because I had a stroke, but I'm going to pull out this chair. I need you to sit here. And the moment I sat on that chair, she opened the windows in front of me. And the poem, which I almost knew off by heart, was in front of me. That is where she sat when she wrote this poem. And the moment was just too much for me. So I need to make my poetry tangible. I need to go touch the places where my poets were at and my composers. So that's the kind of life I have with culture and with arts. You want to get a feel for it. Well, see, and once you do that, you will love it more. It won't just stay academic.
100%, Steve. But this is a side of you that I think very few people know because the abuse you get in the media and the lies told about you. I think it's important for people to understand. That's why I brought this topic up. But talk about people who are no longer with us. I mean, of course, a very famous, very amazing South African artist was Teens Jordan. I covered his funeral procession live. You were there. That was a very moving moment, was it not?
Mm. It was a terrible moment. We all bury somebody who's older than us, but when you start burying people that are younger than you, nobody's ever prepared for that. So this was a colleague of mine, an artist. He started singing about 10 years after me. Probably one of the greatest artists in Afrikaans music, if you ask me. Singer-songwriter kind of guy. We shared all these songs that you and I shared now, we shared as well. And when he passed away, it is as if the business just stopped. It was like Elvis dying, we couldn't believe it. There were big tribute concerts in his name. And in one of his last phone calls to me, when he basically said goodbye, but not in so many words, I recorded that. I had that voice note. And I used it in a song, in a tribute to him, which we played at his funeral. But because I don't want to sensationalize it, I didn't release it as a song ever. It's out there on YouTube, you can go watch it, but I didn't want to make it it's not a pop song. It was really an endearing and close moment. And I can even listen to it without bursting into tears, and I still hear his voice, and I sing one of his songs on tour, and I tell people, I can't make him come back, but I can bring him back in a way for 3 minutes. I do one of his songs. Yeah, for some other reason, he left a massive vacuum in the Afrikaans market. And with his colleagues, we all loved him, That is Teens Jordan, and everybody will fall in love with him. He didn't have a baritone voice. He had a bass voice, to give you an idea what kind of artist this was.
No, he was amazing. And, I remember Kruna had a tribute to him when he was ill. He came on the stage there. It was pretty amazing. He's very heartwarming. That's the concert series I want to see because while I was in South Africa during one of my tours, Afrikaans' Goed was performing at Loftus the first time they did that outside of stage, and they did the open like that. And I went, and it was fine, but I mean, I didn't go to hear Beach Boys songs. I wanted to hear music in Afrikaans, and most of the stuff was they're doing American hits. I need to go to Kruna. That's the one I need to go see if I want to catch that environment. So anyway, but you're not involved with those big tours, but you tour pretty much on your own these days, right?
I do. I used to be involved with those. We've had massive clashes, political clashes, mostly with sponsors, never with the promoters themselves. But it's a terrible thing that money does, and it does it to sport as well, where somebody who knows nothing about music, but because he finances it, he will tell you what to sing, what you're allowed to say, and what you aren't allowed to say. And that is not the environment I can work in as an artist. So I excuse myself from all these big sponsor-driven kind of shows, and I just did my own, which is of course not that easy, but I could do my own large shows. So twice at the Monument, I got my 15,000 crowd. I got 18,000 for the Icon tour, which I did last year, I think it was, or was it earlier this year? So I'm happy. I'm happy with how it's going. We're living in a technology that you can really make yourself independent if you really wanted to, But my relationship with the audience has never been better, and that's always been good. And they understand what's going on. When your media turns on you and your promoters and the big money and all the state-captured businesses out there, and that's pretty much 3/4 of South Africa. When they turn on you, there are lots of reasons just to stop singing and do something more private, but I didn't. I carried on going because I know my relationship with my audience was good, and they've never stopped coming to any of these shows, and it doesn't seem like they are going to stop very soon. Yeah, things are mellowing out. The things that I've said that have been controversial in the past have been upstaged times 20 by many politicians, by black politicians, by more radical, extreme politicians. So I don't know. Unless I say something controversial again, I'm going to be reduced to the bin of soft insults.
Well, that's
prejudices. That poor old boy.
Well, that's Steve. That's what when we last did this, when we last spoke 5 years and 3 months ago on this program. Not that it's been a long time, but when we last spoke, that was after Delant had come out, and I was actually surprised that song was put together and that you were involved in that, because people making much noise about you, but that's an incredible song, Die Land Bezuidenhout. It was, at your concert at Velbedocht, after you had me up on stage, at the end, you play that, of course, and I was down on the ground singing the lyrics, and all the Afrikaners was like, hey, look at the American. He knows the song. It was awesome.
Singing songs about the country.
Yeah, it was pretty wild.
Or the land, I suppose that translates as well.
Yeah.
That was probably my second biggest hit, because it was five of the big Afrikaans artists came together and sang a song about a country and why we loved it. It is a great song, because it's not, you don't get the ideological feel for it. It's not a political song, although everything is slightly political. It is more the song that says, this is a great country, and it's worth fighting for. So that song became big, but because I was in it, I was one of the 5 artists, the song got boycotted at the awards evenings, where we knew it had to win Song of the Year because it just like outshone everybody else. That prize was given to somebody else. So that is the life of a cancelled artist. I've had that for many years, even before other artists were cancelled. In America, I already suffered the culture of cancellation. Well, there was a graceful artist who did win that year, who actually said that she knew that we deserved this song. So the artists still know what's going on. You can see through all these virtual signaling, self-loathing, politically correct moves out there. You see it in politics, you see it in culture, you see it in sport, and you certainly see it in the arts.
Well, it's I'd like to take care of a real quick super chat here, and this is from Mad Max. He sent 70 right. He says, Steve, the book I sent you via Colonel Chris Wyatt, Op die Bodem van die Waldam, it tells you where Eugene Marais sat here while writing poetry, and where the Bible was translated. So there's your confirmation, Mad Max. I gave him the book.
Yes, you did, actually. Thank you very much. I've already read some of it. I've got reading lists in that's basically a whole heap of books, and they distribute it all over the house. So I have a list here. I have one in the TV lounge. I have one in the kitchen. I have one in the 2 toilets, and then I have one in the bath. The bath is my favorite reading place, and that book is over there. And I found that a fascinating book. I thought, what could you write about a big dam in South Africa? Until you see what they actually found at the bottom of this dam. And then it becomes a very interesting book. But thank you very much if you are listening. I certainly did get it.
Well, I don't know if this goes well, this joke in South Africa, but I wonder, at the bottom of the dam is Jimmy Hoffa down there. That's in America. That's a funny joke.
Yeah, I know. You have more jokes like that. You have a Kennedy joke or two like that, don't you?
Yeah, we do. But Jimmy Hoffa, the union boss who disappeared, no one knows. They think he's buried in New Jersey. But back to the song.
He could be in the Fall Dam in South Africa.
He could be. That's what I'm saying. But you never know. But that song. So it was you. It was Rikus. It was Bok van Blerk. It was Bobby van Jaarsveld. And who was the last person that was on there?
Ruan, and Jay. They were in as well. Yes, Bobby was there.
Yeah, okay.
And Bok, that's right. It was us, yeah.
Okay.
Of course, there was another song that came out at the same time called Die Gelofte, which is The Covenant, which is a song as beautiful. It is an incredible song. And that was done by some of the other artists. I wonder if Tiens was one of those artists, but it could be.
Don't recall.
So singing about our country is a bit of a, I don't know, other people may see it as a luxury, but if you're an acute minority in your own country, you do things that other people don't understand. If you still feel that your tribe is a majority in your nation state, I need you to know that I've warned you 10 years ago, don't wake up one morning as a minority in your own country, because then you're going to start doing interesting things like erecting 52 statues for your language. I like asking English people, how many statues have you erected? How many monuments do you have for your language? And they think I'm out of my mind. Wait till you become a majority and you have no more democratic power, and you have to fight and start building your own schools because the taxes don't come back to you. So our artists are on the same corner. We feel it. We sing more about our culture than anybody in the world, and we love it. We're very proud of it, and Die Land was one of the products of that feeling. Yeah. No, my number one song, I may just add, because I mentioned that as the number 2, is actually Amanda, the Don Williams version, which I sang with a lady singer here, great vocalist, called Demi Lee Moore. And I think that's gone to almost 30-40 million views. I'll go take a look on YouTube. It's a very, very big song in South Africa.
No, it's huge. It's absolutely
an old cover.
Yeah, and I think even people in the States have caught it. Some people, it's picked up a little traction over here as well because of that song. But it was an amazing song. Chesigi, one of my viewers, sent a super chat. She said, "Afternoon, Colonel. Thank you, Steve, for bringing your music to us over the decades." She's obviously been listening to you for a long time. That's pretty awesome. So, okay, we've kind of touched on politics now, so maybe we shift a little bit towards that. You know, South Africa and the United States have kind of a strange relationship, right? A strange relationship, a strained relationship, I should say. Not a strange, but a strained. And, you know, it's in the popular press and in the captured media in South Africa and here in D.C. and the States. I keep talking about it, this is Donald Trump, this is Donald Trump. But, Steve, this goes back long before Donald Trump. And I keep telling people it really started in earnest in around 2000 when the ANC refused to sign an Article 98 waiver protecting our troops from the International Criminal Court, which is ironic because the Rome Statute was written by American lawyers during the Clinton administration, which brought in the court. But then the way it was promulgated, we refused to sign it. Our Senate wouldn't assent to it. So we never became a signatory, along with Russia and Sudan and Israel and a bunch of other countries, Ukraine. So we're not part of it. And the Article 98 waiver was something that said a country would promise not to grab your troops and then send them to the court. But South Africa refused to sign that. As a consequence, we had to stop all military assistance to the SANDF for about 2 or 3 years under the Bush administration. That's what started. And since then, it's been one provocation after another. And the South African government chose to ignore it. The media's chosen to ignore it. The insults, the acts, the 75% tariffs against our poultry, the bans on our pork products, the quotas limiting the number of cars we can ship to South Africa while you can ship whatever you want here, duty-free to the United States. All of this has been ignored. And in February of 2024, a Democrat and a Republican in the House put forward a bill to impose sanctions on ANC senior leaders. This is before the election, of course, where they were no longer in the majority, for their actions against U.S. national security interests. Now, that bill has been reintroduced by a Republican this year, but everyone in South Africa seems to want to blame Trump for this. But this isn't Trump. This predates Trump. And I don't know, is that something you're aware of or you pay attention to? Because most people in South Africa seem to be missing this completely.
No, I'm really learning something from you. I didn't know of the the Bush era event that you mentioned there. But not everybody agrees with the massive opinion in South Africa. Like I said, we are a minority group. We are called the Afrikaner. We are a stateless nation. We surrendered our sovereignty because we were Christians. We thought we were dealing with good people. We forgot that when we were soldiers, we were the last people on this continent who kept communism at bay. We could have warned you back then that if we do this and surrender our sovereignty, you will have to deal with communists. And now you are. So I'm not of the group that disagrees. I think what the White House has done so far, and Donald Trump has been doing us a massive favor. All the criticism I've had in the last 30 years against our government, somebody else stood up, and it happens to be the number one citizen of your country, and he actually mentioned it. We fell on our backs. We couldn't believe it. And then when that incident happened inside the White House, where there's a group of people around there and that mostly made fools of themselves, I realized that, we are still that country. South Africa is still the most inconsensual country in the world. We have probably 40 different cultures here, but we certainly have 11 official languages. We have a constitution that says all languages should be treated equally, and then of course it's not. Afrikaans is the third most spoken language, my language, in South Africa. Black and white people speak it. English is the fourth most spoken language, but we have, from 21 universities, been reduced to none. We have no more state Afrikaans universities, not even in the Afrikaans provinces, and that's why we are doing what we do in history. We build it ourselves. We finance it ourselves at great cost, which means we pay taxes twice. But that's what we do. And against the background of a failing ruling party, the ANC or the Government of National Unity, that can't seem to do anything about education. They don't seem to build schools, and they haven't in 30 years. We seem to be a bit of an embarrassment. And now again, with the whole Trump fiasco, it seems that we are still the embarrassment. In fact, we and organizations like AfriForum are being blamed for these tariffs and sanctions against South Africa, but nobody asks the question, but isn't Trump doing that to all the countries in the world? It's not just us, But this is the kind of country we live in. It is a country of inferiority complexes, and it's a country of failures, and it's a country where ideology keeps you from admitting this. It's ideology over everything, but it does seem to be evening out that these massive dominating parties are slowly being reduced in numbers. When they get to the polls, it seems that the ANC probably won't be around for another decade. So things are rationalizing slightly. I know that the answer to our woes is the 5 things the Americans ask. Stop the race law, stop singing those racial songs, stop the expropriation, the illegal expropriation of land. And there was another one. That is the reason why we are being punished. Nothing else. It's very simple, actually. So we're all going, those who like and don't like Trump are going, yeah, Trump, you go, you tell them, Donald. We are very impressed. But I am, for sure. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative political thinker. I would like to rule my own people. I'd like someone like me to rule my own people. I'd like to know that there's a future for my children. And at this stage, as a minority of my own country, I can promise my children absolutely nothing.
Well, there have been a couple of tertiary schools built in South Africa in recent years. Soltech, built by the Solidarity Movement, a technical school, and Academia, which is already operating, but now they're building a new campus, also built by the Solidarity Movement. I don't recall any South African government tertiary institutions in recent years. In fact, they're going backwards with that. But I think that's there's a phrase that fits in Afrikaans, and I'll probably mispronounce it, but selfbestuur. I think that's the right phrase.
Yeah, self-management, self-bestuur. It's what it is. It has to become a motto with us. We have to do that, or else we won't survive. And that's to do things yourself, which means we can stand and complain and cry and write letters to the White House and to cry in the European Union, and we cry in Australian governments. But at the end, nobody has time to come to your rescue. This is not 1960 and 1950, where other people's business became your country's business, and they would interfere and they would intervene, and that's how apartheid was stopped, because the whole world came down on us with sanctions. We don't have that kind of world anymore. That geopolitical thing is basically the luxury of someone like Donald Trump, who has the power, who can move around and cause some effect. The rest of us have, in our countries, enough troubles of our own to worry about South Africa down at the bottommost part of Africa. So we realize nobody is coming to our rescue. And as far as we can, we have to build ourselves. We have to manage these things ourselves. So we build our own schools. We are on private property. We have little towns that are fighting for their hegemony and keeping their languages intact. Like I said, things happen when you're an acute minority. And sometimes in South Africa, I just say, listen, man, I don't feel like debating anymore. I don't have to talk to you. You don't identify at all with me, because you cannot identify with a person who is an acute minority. You have always been completely outnumbering majorities in South Africa. So there we have it. That's exactly the opposite language of what you're using in America. But I'm telling you now, if you're the majority, try and keep that position for as long as you can, because democratically, it becomes essential.
Absolutely. So Legal Alien said that BYU, Brigham Young University, teaches Afrikaans, thinks it's the only university in the USA. No, that's not true. There are several universities in the States that teach Afrikaans at school as a foreign language, UCLA being one of them. I know. I've been on campus at UCLA because that's where I got some of my primer textbooks to learn the grammar. But I got to be honest, Afrikaans grammar is a breeze compared to German. You don't change the article. D because it doesn't become der, dem, and das. What's that?
That's right.
Yeah.
You speak German. I forget that.
Yeah.
No, but then Afrikaans should be a walk in the park. Yeah, German is. I would do anything to speak German, because I need that extra library in my life to be able to read it. I mentioned Goethe earlier on. Very important. Well, the Shakespeare of Germany, isn't it? Yeah. Also, if I trace back my family tree, it goes back so far that it goes back to a time before Germany, which was the Roman Empire, I suppose. And if you see the town where we come from, which is Ibbenbüren in Germany, my ancestors come from a little town, not in Holland or Netherlands. It comes from a little town in Germany on the border there, but before there were borders in this stage. Yeah, sorry, just to tell you that I love the German language, and yes, it's a much more difficult language. Also, the pronunciations are tough,
Oh, no. German pronunciation is easy because it's phonetic. It's the Afrikaans. I mean, how do you get out of a G?
Yeah. What was that lady's name? Gesiggie.
Yeah, there you go. How do you get that out of a G?
All right.
How do you get that?
Well, I need to tell you. Watch this. Gesiggie. Can you see that?
I can.
That's how you spell it.
Yeah.
It's a poem I wrote,
okay.
And that is actually one of the hit songs of Tian Jordan. He took this song, he phoned me, and he said, "I know which girl you wrote that song for," and he liked it as well. So he made a song of it. In fact, if you read these letters down, the first letter of every sentence, it actually spells out the person's name, which is a bit of a trick we had, a cryptic trick we had in the old days. Yeah, gesiggie, it's a tough one to pronounce. But even our blacks in South Africa, we all go, what is this word, ewige gebergtes, which is one of the words from our former anthem. Yeah. Nobody can pronounce that, gesiggie and ewige gebergtes. We like using the G.
Yeah, but you use it in a way that so you can't tell me German's difficult to pronounce. Also ich habe Deutsch schon mehr als 40 Jahre gesprochen. Es ist ja ziemlich einfach für mich. Gegenüber ist Afrikaans ziemlich schwer. Also die Aussprache ist nicht einfach. Yeah, anyway, see, it's very easy. But
I like it.
In Afrikaans, man, it's tough, So I got to tell you this story, Steve. So I was at Soesterberg Air Base back in 1992. I took a trip to the Netherlands. And we could use the bases as military because it was NATO, and so I went there to stay in the officers' club in the lodging they had because it was cheap, it was inexpensive, and it was right next to the flight line, which was not ideal because the F-16s like every 30 seconds for a couple hours they had some exercise going on, so it was very distracting. So I came out of the shower, I turned the television on, and I swear to goodness, Steve, the most stunning woman I've ever seen in my life was one of the news presenters on a news program in Dutch. And the gentleman was talking, excuse me. The gentleman was talking in Dutch, and then I'm just looking at her. I'm just mesmerized at her beauty. And then the camera swung to her, it's her turn, and she started going, I'm like, oh, God, no. Oh, make it stop. Make it stop. She's not beautiful. Oh, it was brutal Dutch, man.
No, that's crazy. But in South Africa, our accent when we speak English, like you can hear now, I'm not English. It's not my first language. Yeah. Our accent is frowned upon. Some of the worst jokes about Afrikaans is always done in a very, very common, the korte way street of speaking Afrikaans. It's the way these Afrikaners can't speak English. Strangely, in other countries, 2 countries, well, somewhere in Europe and I think in America, Afrikaans twice was rated the sexiest accent in the world.
Oh, no, yeah,
which we can't believe because we frown upon this side, but on the other sides they find it sexy every now and then, which I'm quite happy about.
So, Steve, here's the deal. I rank English accents, okay? So the best English accent is the Republic of Ireland. The Irish have the best English accent.
Oh, they certainly do. Yeah.
They do. It's
yes.
And then for me, Afrikaners, especially a beautiful lady who speaks Afrikaans well, but even the men, that comes second for the accent. After that, you might be able to say some, not all English accents, because there's a lot of English accents, but some of the more proper ones, the posh ones are good. But then you get further down, and you get down to the ones at the bottom, the Australian, and then the American and New Zealand at the dregs, the worst accents of all. And the only one below that is the Indian accent for English.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That is, you'll know immediately. And what about the Scottish accent? That's quite a nice one.
Oh yeah.
Scottish accent is quite good. What about the Latin, the Spanish? European accents?
No. When they speak English, no. But yeah, the Scots. Yeah, I guess I could throw those in there above the English. That'd be better than English. Yeah. But the Scots, you've got to pay real close attention because you can't understand a damn thing they're saying.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they always speak as if they have the mouths full of food.
It's like the mouth. Well,
Dan maak geen plaats op vloer van de kippel op.
Well, and it sounds like the Scots have a mouthful of marbles when they talk with some of the words. They swallow half the vowels.
You're right. I dislike the English habit. I don't think they know they do it, but they add a K to the end of any ing word.
Yeah.
Like locking the door.
Yeah.
I always found that's a bit strange. You don't spell it like that. Maybe it's just, maybe a silent K, but it's not. They actually verbalize it. Yeah, the English have strange habits.
But
but it's because you don't have monuments for your language. That's why.
Yeah, but the only language in the world has a monument is Afrikaans. Okay, so you can't pick on everybody.
That's right.
Yeah, but
right. Do you have a north-south? Not just a political conflict, but I suppose you do. Coming from history, do you have a north-south accents, different dialects in America?
No, we
under the English.
We have so many different accents in America. I mean, all over.
Because you have southern, you have the southern,
but you have different southern accents too. You have very deep twang. You've got you have basically a Midwest accent, which is kind of what I have, Midwest accent, because I lived all over the country and never really. And also, I moved so many times as a kid, and as a matter of self-defense, I just innately developed this ability to adapt very quickly and change my accent without even realizing it. So if I go see my cousins in Maryland, which is just 2 hours south of here, within 40 minutes I sound like I'm from there because I just naturally, my
You,
voice
you
shifts to
adopt
that.
it.
Yeah, it just shifts right to that. But it was a self-defense mechanism because I was always a new kid, skinny, going to new schools all the time, and I had to adapt. And I lived all over the country. But yeah, we have so many different accents in this country. I mean, and if you have an ear
Wasn't Kamala Harris known for changing accent according to which audience she was speaking
all
to?
the Democrats.
She was a linguistic queen. Wonderful.
All the Democrats do that. Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama
they know
did
how
the
to do
same
it.
thing. Yeah, especially when they were hanging out at black churches. Suddenly they had that, that accent.
They go all.
But
black, yeah.
if you have a good ear for accents and for uses of language, and I think I have a pretty good one. I know I have a pretty good one. But so, for instance, I was in Arizona. In 1994 when I came back from Germany, and I went to the post exchange, the store that's there for the military to purchase things. And I walked in the door, and in order to utilize the place, you have to have a military ID card, either be a serving member or a family member with privileges because it's tax exempt. There's no taxes there on the base. So I walked in, and a guy asked for my ID card, and I showed it to him. I said, "Oh, you're from Glen Burnie." Now, Glen Burnie is in Maryland, 2,600 miles away on the other side of the country. And he said, "How did you know that?" I said, "Because you spoke." So there are distinct accents in about a 35 or 40 kilometer range to go from the south side of Baltimore down to Annapolis. And I can identify Glen Burnie. I can identify Severna Park. I can identify all these different places between there because the accents are slightly, because these communities were so insular for a couple centuries. And the accents, I mean, people didn't travel more than 5 or 10 kilometers in either direction to take care, because everything they needed was there. The Chesapeake Bay was bountiful, all the food they needed, the farms were there, and so they didn't travel very much. And the accents just continue. It's amazing. But anyway, so yeah, we have tons of accents.
Don't tell me Glen Burnie had a Scottish accent, a Scottish Genesis.
No. No, but Maryland was founded by Catholics, although most people aren't Catholic there, but we're escaping from England. But the thing about the language is that, like in Maryland, they have this habit of being like the English and not pronouncing letters in there. And so, for instance, Maryland is not pronounced. A lot of people in Maryland don't say Maryland; they say Merlin. Like Merlin.
Oh yeah,
and no one says Baltimore. They say Balmer, BAWL, Balmer.
Baltimore.
They don't say Baltimore. They say Balmer. Of course, you have a Baltimore in Limpopo. That's where a farmer was brutally murdered the weekend, unfortunately. But it's that's another farm.
Well, there are some of the British who don't do they don't pronounce the T's. Have you heard that? Like they say lil instead of little, and they say important. Something is important. And I think there was a T. You missed a T. Well, they do that to their own languages. Yeah, but it's a wonderful thing.
But the thing is, English has changed so much over the years. I mean, the influence of an Anglo-Saxon language, influenced by Norse, influenced by Latin, and then the big changer, the game changer for English, of course, was the introduction of Norman French, which is why they can't pronounce the language properly. So we have to teach English how to speak English because they can't speak it properly.
I love it.
So we have another one from Mad Max. Says, I need you to please say. Oh, he wants me to say Ferraya. Steve must hear how you say that. Now the problem, Steve, is that when I speak Afrikaans, I have a German accent. I get told that all the time. So in self-defense, I just always say Ek praat nie Afrikaans nie.
That's perfect. That is perfect. Or Ferraya is a traitor.
Yes.
We have these two letters, the G sound, the guttural G, and we have a rolling R. You do have that in some English. Scottish also have it. The Arabs have it as well. But I do know that we love the rolling R, Ferraya.
So now they're having fun with me. But I'm familiar with the Ferrayas because I think I was the first person to call the 44 the Ferrayas. That was something I applied to them recently. Now they want me to say Draatsitter.
Yeah, Draatsitter.
See, that's
well, what's a Draatsitter? I can't translate that. It's a fence.
Fence sitter.
Oh, it sits in the fence. Fence sitter, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Fence sitter, Draatsitter. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but look, Afrikaans, the grammar is so much simpler than German, but the pronunciation for me can be difficult at times. So that's why I always tell people I don't speak it, because I always get harassed for the way I pronounce it. And they're always like, you sound like a German. Like, well, okay, that was my second language of the 6 I speak. So there's a reason why I probably sound that way. But anyway, so Steve, we talked a long time ago on a program about your military service. You were conscripted into the South African Defense Force, and now now we see a military that is a shadow of what it once was. A force that's underfunded, it's overutilized, that has all kinds of challenges. And now we see like the chief of the South African army going to Tehran and showing solidarity with the Iranians after Donald Trump bombed the bejesus at them. It's pretty crazy to see where South Africa is with their military today.
Incredible where they've gone. They'll see me as treasonous, but really, if you wanted to invade South Africa, you do it now. This is a great time to do it. In fact, we're a very small little country just across the road here called Lesotho, which almost invaded us. We couldn't keep them out. Yeah, so we've become a very, very sad shadow of our former triumphant army, probably one of the greatest armies in the world, also for what we produced, the Rooikat. I see Denel at the moment is having a tough time. They used to be the producers of these, the company that produced them. Everything that the state could lay their hands on, that they could make an SOE, that they could capture, is bleeding. We used to make enemies bleed. Now we are bleeding internally. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. I don't know how it can be stopped. In fact, I can't think of anything better happening to South Africa than a kind of a Donald Trump who walks in and says, okay, I've got a couple of executive orders. You're going to love this. And you go through the night like he did, and you just haul out one executive order after the other to fix this country. And I'm telling you, that'll be the easiest thing in the world to do. Starting by those 144 race laws, get them out. Bringing back merit, bringing back a meritocracy to South Africa will be a wonderful thing. Yeah, no, it's all well documented out there. In fact, you can go to ChatGPT, they'll tell you one of the greatest sins in South Africa and how easy it is to fix. It's just crazy, but nobody seems to be interested to take that route. It's ideology overrules everything. And that's where we are right now. And it's not going to get better very soon, because it's no use praying for the demise of the ANC when the top 3, 4, 5 parties in South Africa all still have the same motto. And that motto is called the National Democratic Revolution. It's like a DEI on steroids. And it'll always seem to be there. It seems to be very acceptable, I suppose, because of the history of apartheid. But they don't seem to learn that we'll never get rich from the policies we have. We've tested them for 30 years. It didn't work. And they never seem to learn that you can't fix racial inequalities of the past with racial inequalities in the present. It just doesn't work like that. You're also punishing the wrong people by compensating the wrong people. It's just not the way to fix things of that nature. And I'm very difficult when it comes to the politics, because I'm a bit of a Mr. Buzzkiller when it comes to politics, because I stopped falling for the political correctness very early, and I verbalized these things. I had big followings on social media, and I still do, and I used them there. So I would be flown to some court 2, 3 times a year. I would always be found guilty in cases that I couldn't lose but weren't allowed to win. And because I would say things as I see them, and you aren't allowed to say what you see. You're only allowed to say what the dominating ideology wants you to say. Yeah, so I get into trouble. I still get into trouble. We can get to those if you want to, but like I just said, I missed a Buzzkiller when it comes to the buzz they had, and the buzz they had was this big black pornographic therapy session they had for 30 years. And I do not treat people like that. I treat people as equals, ironically, but not as patients, not as a babysitter. I'm not a babysitter for black people or any people in the world, A lot of black people appreciate that, but there's many of them say, no, you owe us a lot, and there'll be compensation until Jesus comes. Well, I'm not part of that party.
Well, it's morally bankrupt to punish people who've only lived under ANC rule, and that's the majority of South Africans who are white, and majority of South Africans have only lived under the ANC. To punish white South Africans for the actions of people that they had nothing to do with. Meanwhile, speaking of politics, a former member of parliament who claims you're his father, Ronaldo Gos, is in the chat saying hello, Papa.
He's still doing that.
Yeah, he's still doing it, and he's a cheap ass too. He only gave 70 rand. The guy's loaded. He made that big parliament money for all of about 3 months.
That is about as long as he stood on the pavement of the maintenance court, and they chucked him out as well. And I said, you can't get money from Steve Hofmeyr. He's not your damn father.
Exactly. No maintenance, Ronaldo. Sorry, buddy. No maintenance.
Yes, I love Ronaldo, and I hope he's listening. And if he is,
he is.
What a
I'm
great spokesperson he's become for sense, for making sense for people who are just sensible. You don't have to be left or right; just be sensible. And he's one of those. Yeah.
Well, Steve, I've been trying to mentor him for several years. He's finally coming around. It took a while to get him out of that.
Well,
DA
damn
crowd.
done. Yeah. But they are all, I must say it with great respect to Ronaldo, but everybody, even Gareth Cliff and Roman Cabanach, they all sound exactly like I sounded 15 years ago, but they're all English. I think they're slightly more ideological free than I am. If you take Rob Herzog, I think everything he says is probably going to work if he applies them. But I do bring nationalism with me. That's the kind of person I am. I'm a Republican, not just a neutral kind of South African who's going to make it work because of capitalism. So yeah, we're colourful capitalists. But I like that I can speak to them now. In fact, I don't even have to speak anymore. I don't protest anymore. I don't march anymore, because this entire circle of similar thinking people sound like I did 12 years ago.
Yep. So let me cover a couple of quick things in the chat. Miss V073, YouTube's doing these weird things with usernames now, so you can't figure out who they are. That's their account.
I think that's a brandy in South Africa.
Yeah, it sounds like a clip drift or something like that, or one of those things. So she gave 100 rands for super. She says, "Ons bloed is oranje." Afrikaans.
Our blood is orange.
Yes. Afrikaans is uniek aan ons land. Yeah. And then,
yes,
so Xavier says, Mr. Hofmeyr, jou eiste, jy is een voorbeeld vir ons allemaal. Baie dankie. Okay, I butchered that, but I'll do my best there. And Ronaldo is still...
I suppose he says I'm an example. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm not sure if I'm a very good example, but I am loud, and if I was wrong, I wouldn't have had the career that I have, that's for sure. I still travel all over the world to see South Africans that have moved in the way that they're moving to America now. They've done that to almost all the countries in the world, so I can now travel the entire world and have Afrikaans concerts. And every time I come back from tour, I write a letter to the ANC to say, "Dear Mr. Cyril, thank you very much for being pathetic," because I can travel the world.
Well, in fact,
first prize would still be to have my people back.
In fact, a lot of people keep asking about when you're going to come to the States and do a tour. And frankly, if you do come to the States to do a tour, I'm not to be a groupie, but I'll probably come to a couple of your dates. Just to that would be awesome. But it's
like
that would be fantastic, I think. So Ronaldo is in the chat. He's still stuck around, is what I want to say. I did want to go on to something else here, and that's you've been fined in the past by what I call the South African Captured Human Rights Commission, and specifically. This past week, they went on television, and a spokesperson for the captured South African Human Rights Commission said that it's necessary to expropriate homes around Hartbeespoort for equity. Not because there's a land claim, not because the land was stolen, not because it was acquired illegitimately, which it wasn't, but because it's only fair to take those homes from those people so that everyone is equitable and treated the same. I mean, this is what they actually said. Now, this is what Donald Trump said is happening in South Africa. And
exactly.
they're lying about it and saying it's not happening. But that law, which is incongruent with Section 25 of the Constitution, incongruent with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which South Africa under the ANC is a signatory to that. They reaffirmed that when they became the ruling party, that we abide by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UN. And they're talking about, the U.S. being out of the norms diplomatically, internationally. But South Africa is the one that's shipping helicopters to sanctioned warlords in eastern Libya, which is a UN violation. And it's South Africa that is actually in violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, in violation of the AGOA Act, but that's gone now, so it doesn't matter. And then also in violation of its own constitution. And now we were told that it would only be in the public interest for public lands, things that aren't utilized. That's all poppycock balderdash. Here is the South African Human Rights Commission saying we recommend that they use all legal means available, including expropriation, to take these homes from lawful landowners because other people deserve it. This is insane. It's what Trump said.
Yeah. No, exactly. They only have success, and as far as we can see, to the bullshit. I can't believe anybody tolerates any of that. They've made me more than once sit and listen to all their stories, and they do good things, and there's a lot good that they can do, but it just doesn't seem to be important to them. The only time we hear about the South African Human Rights Commission is when they playing these old Marxist chess games. It is just incredible the press releases coming from the South African Human Rights Commission. It is just incredible that they call themselves a Human Rights Commission when they do these things. So, yeah, I'm afraid 10 years from now, when I buy a suit and I become more presentable and less childish and I go into politics, they'll be one of the first state-captured organizations I'll get rid of. I need real human rights, not that. That's wallpapering.
It is. It's window dressing, and it's actually, you know, and speaking of them, I just want to cover something else.
Exhausting stuff.
When we're on that topic, Nobs and Keezy. So, you know, Steve, you know that my channel, I plugged along for a long time, and it didn't have a lot of viewers because the YouTube was harassing my channel and hiding it. And so after, you know, they took my original channel away, then I got it back, but they don't promote it. But this channel, I started, and after 4.5 years, it was at 20,000 subscribers. I figured I'll never go anywhere with this, but I'm just doing it because I have the dedicated audience that likes my analysis of news. And then Nobs and Keezy on a Fly Sapphire flight from Durban to Cape Town, verbally insulted colored flight attendants in the most vile insults you could think of, and then physically assaulted people on the plane. And the South African Human Rights Commission, to date, I've seen no verdict or determination of what her punishment is, and I've never seen whether she's been banned from flying after assaulting people on a plane. We have photographs of evidence of her assaulting people. And so that incident, and then we had Nota Boloye saying white women are genetically inferior and can't bear children, that white people are dogs, need to be kept on leashes, and they should be driven into the sea. And he was forced to give an apology, whereas Ronaldo Gous lost his position in Parliament because of the cowardly DA. I mean, there's no equity here. They do it window dressing. Okay, yes, we went after somebody who's black because they said something bad, but there's no real consequences. I think you got fined like 100,000, 150,000 rand or something like that for a comment a while back. Let's not repeat the comment. We don't need you to get another fine. But my point is that there seems to be no equality when it comes to the South African Human Rights Commission that's talking about equality. In fact, it's very one-sided. Very one-sided.
Yeah, when a white woman said that, she went to jail immediately. I think she spent 2 years there.
Vicky Momberg,
using the K word.
Vicky Momberg, who was nearly carjacked and was in a state of shock when she said those abhorrent words. She should have said it.
No mitigation for her. She was under complete stress. How many times are you attacked like that? And she said things and she had to go to prison. It's just incredible. I don't know. I shake my head and I keep verbalizing these things and I articulate them well on my program. And the reaction I'm getting is very important. Do you know why? Because I need to know that there are other people like me who know that we are not mad. We haven't gone out of our minds, because this is not the way to treat the citizens of a country. Not those who really want to work together and find themselves actually equal, you know. Not that I believe in equality, but equal enough. Yeah, no, it's a terrible thing. They've made me fly down to Port Elizabeth to compensate some male pole dancing society or something for something that I said. It's always something you said. It seems to be that saying things all over the world now has become more of an offense than actually killing somebody. You know, it's more of a sin in the eyes of the world at the moment to be racist than to be a murderer. In fact, in South Africa, if somebody is murdered, everybody wants to know what the races were, because really, if a white person had to murder a black person, this country will come to a standstill, because, you know, it's that kind of murder. In my life, murder is the ultimate transgression out there, and everybody should be punished who does it, you know. And rape. But the reason why they don't mention those is because we're still the murder capital of the world, and we're most certainly the rape capital of the world. And we rape anybody. We rape our women. We rape children. We rape virgins. It's just incredible what happens in this country when it comes to murder and rape. In fact, they want compensation for the way apparently they were murdered in the old South Africa and the apartheid South Africa, but they forget to remember that the Truth and Reconciliation Committee reminded everybody that the biggest mortality rate that the blacks suffered weren't because of whites. It was because of a black-on-black violence. And apartheid people are being punished for that who happen to be white. So I don't know who does the math, but I know it's probably the Human Rights Commission, because nobody else can make sense of it.
Well, in fact, you know, the People's War that took place, the ANC trying to become relevant, necklacing and murdering over 25,000 Inkatha Freedom Party members.
Incredible.
Pretty much destroyed that party and all of its future leadership. I mean, you know, bless his heart. I mean, I'm not speaking ill of him, but the reason Mangosuthu Buthelezi was leader of that party for decades is because most of the talent behind him was assassinated and murdered. There weren't a lot of quality people. They were all killed by the actions of the ANC in the 1980s and the early 1990s. I mean, that's their legacy. You know, it's funny, Steve, because, you know, we don't hear it much now, but a couple of years ago we kept hearing about, you know, the DA is the offspring of the National Party, which is not true. It's the the ANC that merged with the new National Party, which was the National Party. So, I mean, yeah, the legacy of apartheid belongs to the ANC, in my view, because they merged with the party that created it. I mean, if we're going to be honest about this, but that's not something people want to talk about. But you're right. It's pretty crazy. The U.S. has about 14,000 murders per year, but our population is over 6 times as large as South Africa. And you have 27.
So that is about, what is that out of 100,000? That ratio would probably be about 4 or 5 out of 100,000, maybe 2 out of 100,000?
Maybe 2. It's pretty low, but compared to South Africa. But South Africa's off the charts.
Well, ours is between 30 and 40 out of 100,000. Our farmers are at about 80. Our farmers are the lowest murder rate at the moment compared to the past 30 years, but it's still 80 out of 100,000. That is double our murder rate, which is already 5 times Africa's murder rate and China's murder rate, which is already 30 times your murder rate and the countries of our heritage, which is Europe. It's incredible, the math. Nobody mentions it, but somebody's got to count it. There's a calculator out there, go count. It's incredible why we're moaning and why we're all neurotic about what's happening in our country.
Well, I mention it quite a bit and try to get people aware of it, both this side of the Atlantic and this and that side. Let's just, the country itself. I heard President Ramaphosa's speech yesterday. I covered it, and he talked about how they want to increase the beneficiation of minerals, which is a good idea in South Africa, and so they want to process the minerals rather than just ship the raw commodity to China. I get that. But how can you do that when you 30 years ago had 19 ferrochrome smelters and you have one left and it's about to close? Where are you going to smelt the material? I mean, these people live in a fantasy world.
But he had ideas of smart cities and great travel, and his dreams are incredible. They're all the speeches to me. I don't even listen to the State of the Nation anymore because it always sounds the same as the preview. And unless you can, in your State of the Nation address, tell me how you improved on the things you promised in the previous State of the Nation. Now, I've already felt like that for 30 years. I just stopped listening to State of the Nations. I actually stopped listening in the middle of our president, who was called Thabo Mbeki, who followed Nelson Mandela. There were 2 Thabo Mbekis. He made 2 speeches. The one is about being conciliatory and we are all South Africans. And it's as if a month went by and he made another speech about black therapy and more black therapy. So from there onwards, they kind of lost me a little. Apart from that, as an Afrikaner or a white person, I don't have much of a democratic say or relevance democratically when it comes to voting. We kind of hang around and we hope for the best, But I'm not a friend. I'm not a friend of my government. I'm a friend of my country and its people. It's black and it's white people. I don't like black and white people suffering. I don't think everybody can be equally rich. We're not really socialists. We can fix this country with a nice 360 capitalism. We do care for each other. We care for each other more than it's amazing that we haven't had a civil war. Although I know we have the mortality rate of a civil war, we actually predominantly still do get along. Without the kumbaya. We know we differ, and that makes us rich, I would think. So I'm not giving up on my country. I'm sitting in a fight for it. I make a lot of noise. I get into a lot of trouble for saying it. I sing songs about it. I write books about it. But I'm going nowhere until we turn the ship around. I just hope it's not too late.
I'm with you on that. Francois Ferrer gave 40 Rand Super Chat saying, kudos, Colonel and Legend Steve. And Michael Marks is asking me to organize a Steve Hofmeyr tour to the USA. It can only be a success. Well, I agree with the second part of that sentence, but I have to find time. I'm too busy answering emails from refugee wannabes to organize a tour. And Francois Ferrer said Mandela would turn in his grave. I'm not entirely sold on that, that Mandela would be entirely opposed to what's happening. But that's a whole other story. So, Steve, what do you got coming up? You got any concerts in the near term? Are you anything coming up where people might want to go listen to you?
Yeah, my December is kind of full already. Already working on the shows for next year. Some of them are full already. The January shows, the February shows. Usually we try and kick off after January, about February. I have plans for the UK and 1 show in Amsterdam, 4 shows in Britain, Great Britain. That'll include Ireland, Scotland, I think. I don't have the ads in front of me, but they are out there. So some international tours next year, and American tours certainly on the cards, although we haven't put anything down on paper yet. It'll be good to get back again. I remember playing Atlanta. I remember playing Houston. I saw most of the Afrikaners in Houston. They like the big buckies. They like the outdoors. There's a lot of water there, which we're not used to. I sang Distem in New York, which is an incredible thing to do. No, I've got good friends out there. I can't wait to do it. I remember traveling Canada quite often as well, only because we had a large contingent of people who migrated there in the 90s, if I remember correctly, which is basically Vancouver on the West Coast. Yeah, lots of touring around. I haven't lost stamina. I'm still very fit. I enjoy the songs. I'm still writing new songs. They're still doing well. So touring is what I'm going to do. If I come to the US, I'm picking you. I'll pay you to be my MC. And I may call you up for a duet, seeing you did that so wonderfully. Your dancing isn't very good, and your intimacy skills are lacking.
Actually,
safe.
My dancing is very good, but they want to replace my hip. But I want original factory installed equipment. I don't want replacement parts. So actually, I will refute that. I can dance. White men can dance. I can. Unlike John Steenhuisen, I can actually dance. Anyway, so
you can do. Yeah.
So let me see if I can get it right now. Chesigi said. She gave 70 and says, Steve, please, can you do the Afrikaans poem for us? Wat is Afrikaans? Please. Are you able to do that? Is that too much to ask?
I don't know if that was. Oh, I've done entire YouTube channels about the great words, the vocabulary of my language, which you probably won't be able to follow in English. There's not a poem like that in my poetry anthology. I have written about why I like my. In fact, sometimes I just speak these things. I go into my YouTube channel and just ravel it off, and people say, "That's a poem. Where does it come from?" I go, "No, I just said it." So maybe it's like that, but it's not an official poem. I have found that I don't write much about Afrikaans. I'm not one of those guys. I don't fall in love with my language, and we run hand in hand into the horizon. I do everything I do in Afrikaans. My spiritual thoughts, my philosophical thoughts are in Afrikaans. As I sit here, I try and translate to English, but most of my things are done in Afrikaans. Of course, I'm a great reader of the English language, and I love the English language as far as I can. But I feel it is your duty not just to do things in Afrikaans, but also do things for Afrikaans. And that is the place where we're at now. Sorry, I don't know what the lady was called. Chesigi, was it Chesigi?
Yeah, yes.
I don't have a poem like that. I actually have 2 English poetry anthologies, but they haven't been published yet.
What about the poem you said earlier? You're talking about you're a Chesigi. What about that poem? That's a short one.
I can do that.
Yeah, that's pretty short.
I can do that, and I'll translate it as I go.
Just read it in Afrikaans. That's fine, and you can translate afterwards.
Al vergeet jy my vir altyd langs 'n mylpaal op jou pad, onderstreep jy steeds die prentjies in die hoeke van my hart. Sloop die mure wat ek bou en alles binne hoort aan jou. Leg die kaart van liefde, al mee met jou 'n jaar, deur die malmaak van ons briewe en die oë op ons bedaar. Gou gesiggie skud my hand as die lense vir ons loer, net 'n oomblik naamloos, alhoewel jy in my boer.
Wow.
Man, I can't translate that. That's as short as it is.
That was brilliant. And I feel like I'm listening to like the Afrikaans version of what's his name, the British guy that does the nature. I can't think of his name.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's what it reminds me.
Oh yes, he had that beautiful. He had that voice. It was like a mesmerizing voice. You watched all these. You watched the biology, and you went, "Oh, I love that."
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's shift to another topic here that I know is near and dear to your heart. No, it's not the Blue Bulls, but rather the Springboks. There is a discussion now. And while I'm a huge Buck fan and have been since 1982, I'm not quite sold on it yet. And I'll explain why. Then I want to get your take on it. There is a discussion that this is the greatest rugby team ever, and it's certainly the best Springboks team ever. I think the second argument can be made. The first argument I'm not sold on because while I detest the All Blacks, their 10-year run, they had an aura about them. Everyone feared playing them, including the Springboks. You knew that if you didn't keep your foot on their throat until the hooter blew at the end, they could come back and beat you, even if they were behind.
They would come back.
Right. And even if they're behind by 28 points with 5 minutes left in the game, they could score for that. So the Springboks have not had that stomp on your throat approach to games until recently. So my view is that we can't call them the greatest rugby team ever, but they're close. They just need to have that put people out. I mean, and the reason I say that is they never should have lost to the Wallabies this year. They had a huge lead 18 minutes into the game, and they never scored again. The Wallabies came back and beat them at home, and then they lost that game in Auckland at Eden Park, which we had it and we lost it. So I think they're almost the greatest team in rugby history, but not quite there yet because people need to fear just facing them. And I'm not talking about Wales and Japan. I'm talking about Ireland and England, and the All Blacks have to be terrified that the Springboks are coming to town. And I don't think they're there yet. So what are your thoughts on that take?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree with you. The aura around the All Blacks is because of their consistency. You know, they didn't have a good year. They had a good decade. In fact, 2 decades. And that is the aura. So I would say I would still call the All Blacks the Kings. But I suppose mathematically, statistically, somebody's going to go work out who is the greatest rugby team of all times. We're having a brilliant run at the moment. That's probably in Springbok rugby. That must be one of the greatest runs we've had as far as victories go. We want a rematch. The Australians know that, and they know by now that this team has this victory smell around them. They just know it's going to go. You know, and it's scary rugby. You know, you're not sure what's going to happen until the last 20 minutes, and then suddenly the Bokke just come and they destroy everything. That's the one thing that needs to be said. You're speaking about stomping and keeping your foot on them. It seems like when we do that, we get red cards, you know. I like rugby for that thing. It's the substitute of war. In fact, it's probably the closest substitute to war apart from wrestling and boxing. It is one of the sports out there with probably the biggest, fattest rule book in the world. So you have to think while you're playing rugby, but of course it's a physical game. So when it becomes, I hate it to become a pissy game, you know, like even Etzebeth, who's in trouble now for putting his finger in a guy's eye, and the guy who previously, you know, a bit of handbag thing. We have that in rugby. It's not ballet, for God's sake. It's rugby. It's got to be like that. So I hate it when they stop us and the referee stop us and they go up to. I think make it rugby again. You know, it's not soccer. There are no melodramatics. It's a tough damn game. So in a game like that, to be called the greatest team of all time, yeah, it's an honor. But I think someone's going to come with the stats to show that there were better runs as far as victories goes. But we are damn close to it. At the moment, I don't see any country who's ready to play South Africa without being very cautious about it.
100%, you know, but of course you and I depart company after the Bucks because you're a Northern Transvaal Blue Bulls fan, and of course I am a Stormers fan, Western Province. But the ironic thing, Steve, is that I have press credentials at Loftus, but not at DHL Greenpoint Stadium.
What?
Well,
Are you serious?
Yeah, I've never actually tried to get them. When I go to watch the Stormers,
they probably worked out that you're a friend of Steve Hofmeyr, as you're never going to get credentials down south.
No, but I do know that John Dobson knows who I am because I do interviews for the press room afterwards at Loftus, either in person when I'm there or remotely, and Dobson knows who I am. So, but I've never asked because when I go to Cape Town, I want to watch the Stormers play. I mean, I want to watch the Bulls play, but it's easier for me. You know, Bulls will come. I'll follow the Bulls and I root for them when they play the Irish or the Italians or the Scots, whoever it is. But I always root for the South African teams. But for me, it's always Stormers, Province. Then I always root for the Griquas because they, you know, you can't help but root for guys who play on concrete instead of turf.
I grew up in that valley. I know about that. No, everybody screams for the Free State the way they scream for the Griquas. We just love them, you know. They're in the center of our country. And because they are smaller unions, the larger unions are known for grabbing their best players, you know. And it's always, coming from Bloemfontein, I know what it feels like, you know. You're always on the back foot. You know, Rassie, who is an interesting person as it is, he already showed some of this tact very, very, very long ago. Now, for my rugby team, the Blue Bulls, I wrote a song called The Blowball, and that became their anthem, and it still is. I think it's banned. They aren't allowed to play it at the stadium for some or other, for Vodacom or some of these sad financiers. But in the stadium, it is still the song. And for the players, it is still the song. And for the public, it is still the song. So when you come to Loftus Versveld, which is where you play in Pretoria in the north, that song will kill you. In fact, it will intimidate you. And you can see when the All Blacks play against the Blue Bulls, for instance, at some stage the All Blacks look up and they go, what in God's name is the song that they keep on repeat called the Blowball? So when there was a game in Bloemfontein, which is the Free State had to play the Blue Bulls. The week before the time, my mother, who lives in Bloemfontein, phoned me and said, my son, I don't know what's going on here. Are you in Bloemfontein? Because they keep playing your song at the stadium. So I thought, at that stage, Rassie was the trainer for the coach for the Free State, and this is what he did. He made them practice while that song was on repeat in the stadium, and the whole of Bloemfontein could hear the Global playing. That is how genius he is. That is his psychological war. He's a king of psychological warfare, although it doesn't sound like it. And that's what he did with the Blue Bulls. So we have a bit of a history, Rassie and I.
Well, I didn't know that story, but you know, I was at Bloemfontein in 2009 for the Tri-Nations. That was Mornay Staines coming out. He scored all the points in that game, and we beat the All Blacks. And I have to tell you that I saw 2% of all the Afrikaners in South Africa because they were at that stadium. 43,000 people. That's 2% of the Afrikaners all gathered in that stadium.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, listen, the music is big, and it's a way of, of rallying Afrikaners. But man, sport, there's just no competition. No, give us rugby and biltong and a braai, and we're happy.
Absolutely. And if Bafana actually ever won anything, the country just go absolutely crazy. It goes crazy for the Springboks, but imagine the country if that actually happened. So, Steve, let me switch to something else here. But I think we kind of agree on where the Springboks are at. They are just amazing right now. And I don't want to get into the Ebenezer. You touched on it, but we'll wait and see what World Rugby decides on that. Yeah. I think there might be mitigating circumstances, and I think that the argument's going to be made it wasn't intentional, although it looks bad on the video, but then you got to see the whole video, which not everyone has seen. So, but you're right. We've been getting these cards. It's like crazy. I mean, they gave Jan-Hendrik Wessels a 9-week ban or 9-game ban because he supposedly grabbed a guy's testicles, but they had no evidence of it, and he did admit to it. So, I mean, how do you do that after? It's just insane. And then the one on Lut de Jager was ridiculous, and then even the one on Franco Mostart was absolutely. He never even hit him in the head. Yeah. So anyway, it's just crazy. But that was overturned, that one. So let me move on to something else here now. Let me make a statement and make a couple comments here, and then I'll get your take on it, okay? So first off, I'm not advocating anyone come to America in the refugee program. I'm also not dissuading anyone. It's not my place. It's just to objectively, cogently, lucidly tell people what the facts are, to clear away the smoke and the lies that are spread out there about the program. And so that's what I've done from the outset since February 7th when Trump announced this. And even if 30,000 or 300,000 Afrikaners, but it's not just Afrikaners. White English-speaking, coloreds, and Indians are also coming, or which the media keep lying about. But I'm talking about Afrikaners in particular. Even if 300,000 Afrikaners go over, let's say even 1 million of the 2.8 million come over here, there will still be Afrikaners in South Africa. The Boer, the Afrikaner, will still persist. It is their land. It is where the culture and the language develop. There will always be Afrikaners in South Africa, no matter what efforts people try to minimize and push them to the side. So that's my take on it. Any thoughts on that and on this concept of the refugee program?
Yeah. Listen, some people travel better. They're ready to travel. Some people will never go. Then not everybody has been through the same thing. I don't care if it's only Afrikaners or only whites. Guess why? Because the 144 laws against South Africans aren't against all colors. They're actually stipulated against the white people. So, but okay, already they've played the politically correct game by verbalizing it in such a way that it's not just whites, just to make sure it's not racist. You must know that of course, let me just firstly say, to your question, I support anybody who needs to go. Like I said, I travel all over the world. I get to meet them in the other countries. And, I would go to Australia every year for about 25 years. And I would go on stage and say, guys, it's good to be here. And please remember, we need you to come back, man. Come on, come back to South Africa. It's your place. And I used to be like that. One day after a show, when I ran off backstage, which is usually a kitchen or a toilet or something, there was an older gentleman standing there, and he called and he came to me in Afrikaans and he said, Mr. Hofmeyr, and it was quite harsh what he said. Mr. Hofmeyr, I need you to know that every time you invite people back to South Africa, half your audience woke up one morning in South Africa on the kitchen floor with an AK-47 up their asses. Something like that, I'm paraphrasing. When I heard that, I realized that I was playing clever again, and I should just shut the hell up. And anybody who feels it important to go, who am I to second guess them? And I never did that again. You can be an Afrikaner anywhere in the world. You are more likely to lose your Afrikanerhood. Your children will probably not speak the language forever, and your great-grandchildren will probably be Australians or Canadians or American. So that's the one thing, that's the one risk out there. But I will support you because I have fought for you because of how you are being treated in South Africa. There are 4 things that make me, I suppose, Mr. Buzzkiller, Mr. Palatable. The reparations one we've discussed already. What makes me conservative is the fact that I believe it is actually your right to not like races. It's actually your right. You can call it racism if you want to. It is not your right to discriminate. So in South Africa, the opposite is that. opposite of that is we will give you laws to force you to like racists and to force you to employ racists, or groups of any kind of, I'm mentioning race now, it could be group of any sorts. So that's the second reason why people find me impalatable. Then, of course, there's the whole apartheid thing, where I've already said a million times, why don't you monetize the things that the colonialists bought to Africa, like my ancestors bought to Africa, put a monetary value to it, and then let's see how much reparations is owed by who. And I have an idea that the people from Africa are going to have to pay us. We don't have to pay them. You can see where they don't answer, because it's going to get you into trouble. I'm already in trouble. And then, of course, the genocide. I'm the only one who says that a genocide is actually happening. Everybody's going, no. So the whole debate is about, is a genocide happening or not? Must I call it the G word? Are you going to get flagged? Okay, anyway, I'm the only one who says the genocide is happening, because I spent a considerable amount of time with Gregory Stanton from Genocide Watch, 3-4 meetings in a row, personal meetings, and out there trying to work out what is this thing called genocide. And of course, in the old days, genocide was this kind of a mass slaughter of one group on another group. But the modern definition of genocide isn't that anymore. A modern genocide is not a mass slaughter. It can include a mass slaughter, but it's more an objective plan from people in power. Where's that definition? I have the Lemkin definition of it. It's an objective plan that would be the disintegration of a political and social institutions of a culture, their language, their national feelings, their religion, their economic existence of this national group, the destruction of the personal security, the liberty, the health, the dignity, and even the lives of the individuals belonging to such a group. Now that is the definition of a genocide. And if you're subject to that, you can use the G word. Nobody wants to do it. Why? Because it diverts the attention from the problems in South Africa, and everybody has a debate about genocide. We should be having a debate about the migration, which you do so well, and why they are invited to South Africa. What Donald Trump means when he says bad things are happening. It's not just about a mass slaughter. It's about killing off the institutions of my people. We feel it every day. It is not fun until it happens to you. So I am pro people packing the bags and going out, because I believe you have more than enough reason to do so.
Well, Steve, it's interesting you say that, because I've been talking for a long time about a cultural genocide, which is one aspect of it. And you've touched on a lot of it. That plays a key role.
Exactly.
Destroying the institutions, defacing Delare's statue, attacking Paul Kruger's statue, banning or mistreating Afrikaans-speaking students at the Afrikaans University at Stellenbosch. The list goes on. The renaming campaign for places there was no formal settlement before the Trek Boers ever showed up. They built settlements in Nelspruit. There was nothing there before they built that in the 19th century. They built Pretoria. There was nothing there. It wasn't some mystical chief named Schwane who was never there. It's really disheartening to see. But I mean, all of this is what I've been calling a cultural genocide all along. But now Donald Trump is unequivocal. I mean, until recently, every time the word genocide came up, Trump was responding to a reporter's question. Now he's actually come out and put a statement out and said, there's a genocide in South Africa. That's what Trump is saying now. He's the only global leader actually saying that.
Yeah, let me tell you, when I met with Gregory Stanton, he actually pointed out 2 groups in South Africa that are subject to genocide. You will not believe this. The one group was the white Afrikaner. I think he mentioned farmer, because it had to be the farmer, because they have this disproportionate murder rate as well. But culturally, of course, they are wiped out. The other group, you will know and believe it if I say who they are. That is all women in South Africa are subject to this definition of genocide. Women in this country are wiped out. We have a GBV epidemic in South Africa. And I feel terrible for how our women are treated in this country. Subject to the same definition. So I'm not going to have a debate about genocide. I know the real definition of genocide, and people think it's a mass slaughter. They think it's just Holocaust. Of course, the Holocaust was a genocide. But it's not just about, it's outside a normal war even. Outside war circumstances, we are crying genocide. You must know how rife it is. So yeah, thank you, Mr. Trump. I hope one day we can have a beer together before you're finished with all this. I think you and I will get along fine. Please send my regards to your president. He's doing us a massive favor.
Well, absolutely. But, you talk about that. We saw with the Chinese Cultural Revolution, over 30 million people were murdered. We saw the collectivization in the Soviet Union when 10 million to 20 million Ukrainians and Russians were killed in the collectivization campaign. They went after peasants, attacked them as kulaks, as if they were wealthy. Yeah, we've seen this movie over and over again in many cultures. We saw the Armenian slaughter. We've seen it's really sad that people do this sort of thing. Let me deal with a couple super chats, and then I want to get to a couple final wrap things here. So first is Neff says, what's in Afrikaans? Steve, my pa, 75 years old, so 75 years old, was bei your Icon show in Pretoria in March. So he was at your Icon show in March.
The Icon concert. Yep.
Yeah, he was there.
It was one of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a big concert.
And he says, "Sai and Ek is mal over you." So I think he and his father they like you. They're back behind you.
I appreciate that.
Zij het al die pad van Petersburg af Gerry van dit. I don't know what that is. Gery. What is that?
That means they drove 3 hours from Petersburg to Pretoria to see the show.
I'm sorry, you mean Polokwane?
Polokwane, sorry. Yeah, I still stick to the old names. I don't do name changes either.
No, I was talking to a reporter earlier today, and she said she is in Umbombele. I said, "Do you mean Nelspruit?"
Oh, don't go there. You'll get into trouble. Yeah, it's all virtue signaling. I don't do that. But listen, that's the kind of fan that I really appreciate. And I've had all my life surrounded by people like that. They get in their cars, they drive 3-4 hours to come see the concert, and I make sure that I make it worth their while.
Well, speaking of that, Mike, who's got a restaurant in Nelspruit, gave us 70 rand super chat. He says, "Steve, just tell the Colonel which rugby team is the best of Blue Bull." Oh, be quiet, Mike. Enough of you. Anyway, he said,
"That's my man. Thank you very much."
Well, you're going to like this. Jij had by my restaurant, Zwilos, opgetreden net voor COVID. So I guess you appeared there.
Fantastic.
You were there before COVID.
Appeared at his venue. Yeah. At his restaurant. Yeah.
See, I know Afrikaans.
That's right.
I just can't pronounce it, man.
You're very impressive out there. I'm going to make you my ambassador one day. Just watch out. Thank you very much to all the people listening to us right now.
Well, Helen, and she's got the little diminutive from Afrikaans, Helenki, Inki. She's got it there at the end. Says, listening to this chat makes me feel like I'm 5 years old again, sitting on the carpet in the living room, coloring and listening to the radio with my grandmother. That's pretty cool.
Isn't that beautiful? Nostalgic. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. As we get older, we sell nostalgia. It's what I do. I like family concerts. I don't want to sing for screaming teenagers anymore. I still do. I still get those gigs and I love them. But all in all, give me the family. Come show me your grandpa and your great-grandchildren, and you're going to have a good concert.
So Francois Ferreira gave a 40 rand, says, "Keep it up, Steve. Thanks to the Colonel." And Ronel Cloti says, "I love the way the Colonel always says they, them, you, the South Africans, until he talks about the Springboks, and then it's we." That's actually true. That's actually true.
You've been exposed, sir.
Well, it's actually true. I always say South Africans because I'm not South African. It's funny, Steve, because the haters, the hate wankers, the leftists, the black supremacists come on my channel, attack me, and attack my videos. Are always like, if they know nothing about me, they've just been sent by the hordes to come over and attack me. They'll always go, "Yeah, what do you do?" I'm like, "Which with your accent?" I'm like, "Okay, I never claimed to be South African. I'm not South African. I'm an American." But it is just funny. And I do say that because I'm clear about, who's who and who's what. But when it comes to the Boca, hey, it's we, brother. It's we. I'm part of that.
Man, we love you for that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Part of the Boca Nation. And I this was a great season, only marred by the 2 losses, which I think we should have won. But I'm asking for perfection. Can't get it all. Anyway, so let's see. Renault says, "This was a real wow live stream. Thank you so much for the show. Thank you so much, Steve, for how you feel about our nation. You really rock. Colonel, I love you. You love your Afrikaans. You're such a blessing." Well, it's my pleasure. But guys, so Steve and I did this in August of 2020. And we got 15,000 views during lockdown. That was during lockdown. And
incredible.
It was incredible. And Steve has not been on the program since. Now, I'm going to throw a challenge out there, Steve. We need to do this, occasionally, if you're up for it, because I don't want to be talking to you when you're 70 the next time. Okay, I'm just saying. Because then you will be an utopia at that age.
I know. I took a year off other people's chat shows just for the simple reason that I was launching my own thing. I can, of course, double my listenership or viewership, but then I have to do it in English. I don't have a problem with that. I might just do that even. But at the moment, my streams, I'm sorry to say, are in Afrikaans. The Facebook and the YouTube podcast on Monday mornings. It's still Afrikaans, but there's a lot of things we need to learn to verbalize as well. So I stick to my language doing that. But who knows? Maybe one day I'll do it in English. Like I see the English is still, it's not brilliant, but it's still there. I can still communicate. If I don't know a word, I'll phone you.
Well, a lot of yeah, I can phone a friend.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, 50-50 phone a friend. No, I have a lot of friends who speak English only in self-defense. That's the only way they speak English.
Yeah, that's a problem we have down here.
So Jarethna says, I saw Stephen Kimberly for the first time in 1992 or thereabouts with his USA bandana, and he was kneeling on stage close enough that we could touch his leg. I was 12 years old.
That's right. I used to have long hair. I used to look like the band Poison. They had these thick headbands. Yeah. And then I had a flag. I think there was an Elvis hanging from my flag, sometimes an American flag, because I was doing American things. I wasn't going to do Afrikaans at all in 1992. And then I had a song called Last Laugh, which means last laugh. And it became such a big hit. And I realized there's a lot you can do in this language, apart from pretending that you can't speak it. And I rediscovered my home language. And today I'm a kampvechter for the language. I like it. And I use it as often as I can. I abuse it if I can.
Well, it's a language that's very colorful. It can be used quite well. I mean, colored South Africans have a very unique way of using the language. I love listening. Many of them are just hilarious the way that they do plays on words. Pretty good stuff. Merlot gave us 70 rand. She said, Steve, I was never really a fan. I'm so sorry to admit that. But hearing you today, you speak to my soul. And I love your love for your country. Wow, that's a nice statement.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, well, I do say and do contestable things. I know I'm that kind of person, so I may have alienated a lot of people. But thank you very much. I don't ask for much more than just a sensible ear, and if you like the music, even better. If you don't, okay.
And then Leo Vinyansa van Rensburg, who's been with my program since the outset, she's an OG, says, at least Steve doesn't say like Ven and Dutoy. I only talk English in self-defense, which is what I just covered. Hans Visser gave a $20 super chat. Hans says, I'm going to butcher this Afrikaans because there's G's in it, but I'll try. Seen y'all 13 December in Pretoria by Mogeskugel concert. Mogeskugel, what's that? I don't know that. Moggesukkel. I don't know that. It says
M-O, say that M-O again.
Moggesukkel.
Oh, yes, of course. Mogeskugel.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah, Mogeskugel is the it's a home. People I just met recently as well, the boy in the wheelchair, Johanki, who became a friend of mine, and we're all getting together for the Christmas concert, which is the 13th of December. Okay. We're all getting together. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I thought it was, I didn't recognize the school thing. That's right. Yeah.
Well, and he says,
I did a similar concert called the Liggiesfeest, which I did last weekend in Potchefstroom, which is also a home for the less fortunate, all friends of mine all over the country. Even I have a farm with a similar kind of thing. That's what you do in a country like this. It's a pained, it's a bleeding country, and we have to look after each other.
Indeed.
Mogeskugel is one of those.
He also said groete uit Nevada, because he's in Nevada, and laat Chris Mogeskugel uitspreek. I think I tried.
Yeah, Mogeskugel, yeah.
Mogeskugel. Okay, there you go. When I hear you say it instead of
looking at it. We'll get you a nice G word to pronounce, like gemeenskaps. Gewoontes. That's a nice word. Gemeenskapsgewoontes, maybe. No, okay. We'll think of something. We'll get something for you.
We'll work on it. And Mad Max says, will Steve tell us how he got to the song Lose When You Lie?
Oh, well, that was a bit of a morality attack long before its time, because my biggest sins came after that song. Lose When You Lie was one of my first English hits. A very popular song. I've always thought it would be a great reggae song if somebody tried that. Lose When You Lie was one of the ballads. Initially, I wrote more English. I wrote only Afrikaans. I had 2 or 3 Afrikaans songs on the first albums, and they became more and more. And eventually, I had English and Afrikaans songs in equal amount. And then later on, I just started doing exclusively the Afrikaans things. Of course, every now and then I jump back and do a good country CD, or I do a tribute to Neil Diamond, or a tribute to Chris Christopherson. So I've always loved languages, English and Afrikaans. But I started favoring my language for the simple reason that it was this undiscovered language. So many things you could still do with it in pop music. And today, of course, there's an explosion of it. Afrikaans is. You would think that the language and the culture is completely healthy if you listen to the language. the singing, the pop music, the pop music culture. We're a very happy bunch. In fact, we need our culture, our music, and our arts as medication. That's what it is. I found that artists sometimes are psychologists when they go out there. Yeah, very, very special kind of art we have in South Africa, I suppose, worldwide.
Ronell Lowe says, Steve, you performed a few times at Springbok Blue, and I missed your show due to other people that wanted to work those nights. I was heartbroken.
Oh, all right. Yes. I suppose I have a bit of a fan base when it comes to the waiters and waitresses. An old relationship going there. And I found sometimes they vie to take that shift because Steve is going to be there and it's going to be a whole lot of fun and they're going to get good tips. I'd like to think that. But thank you very much. I hope that's what she meant at the Springbok Blues.
I think that's
many concerts.
I think that's what the intent was. It's when I do my meet and greets, Steve. I always ask people because I don't hire venues. I'm not Bill Gates, so this is all self-funded when I do my trips, and it costs a lot of money. Although I get a lot of help from South Africans offering accommodation and things like that. But it costs a lot of money, so I don't hire venues. But what I do is I try to go to a place where we can generate revenue. People buy drinks, buy food, and I always ask them make sure you tip your waitstaff. Because I think a lot of people forget just how deep a hole a lot of people wound up in because of COVID lockdown and not being able to work for months on end. And a lot of people still dealing with an overhang of debt and, the things they lost during that time. So I always try to remind people, if you have good service, especially, tip your waitstaff. It's always a good idea. It's a very much an American tradition, but Europeans are stingy bastards. They never do it. And in South Africa, I'm never sure whether it's appropriate or not. So if I get good service, I always give a tip.
Yeah, of course. That's not the only reason you should give a tip. You remember your waiter can spit in your beer when you're not watching, spit in your martini and spit in your pizza.
well,
didn't you watch that movie? You should always tip. That's why.
Yeah, I really don't want to go there, but I think you're correct about that.
Yeah, it's not palatable.
You're correct about it as well. Well, Steve, I think we haven't exhausted things, but and I'm almost afraid to let you go because you made me wait 5 years and 3 months for the second interviews.
No, please. I'm back into the interviews. I'm enjoying it. I'm meeting some of my old friends. I'd like to thank you for everything you have done for us as a complete outsider. You've become one of us. We can certainly share the Springboks with you. And thank you for verbalizing things we hardly understand. The whole migration thing you did so well. The other day, I let you know that you had a conversation about, was it the G20, which I think was the best summary of all the commentaries that I had from all over the world about the G20. So well done. And I love your brain. And when we get together, we have a good time. In fact, we sound like we sound now. We sit around a beer, have a braai, and we chat like we do now. The subjects just never expire. I like it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And in fact, I think that's an element I hadn't really thought about here. And this is why this is the Indaba conversation, because it's a conversation. It's not really an interview as such, and that's what Excellent. We do. I've been to visit you 8-9 times now, I think it is, and you've hosted me. We've gone to your restaurant. We've gone to one of your favorite restaurants. I've been to your homes, and we've had I've been to your concerts. So we have a really good time. And we just so before we go, I just want to. Velbedocht. I just got to say this, okay? I don't think I've told people this on air with you on air. So I went to Velbedocht, and Skulkberger offered that because the Tal Monument backed out of the agreement they had. And I think they had a contract with you, and they broke the contract, if I'm not mistaken. But you were magnanimous about it.
Imagine the Afrikaans Tal Monument.
Yeah.
Doesn't want me to perform there because of ideology. It's crazy. Well, that's the kind of country. Okay, sorry, but you're right that your facts are correct. So every one of my trips has a theme and a key event. So the theme that one, I forget what the theme was in that one, but it might have been the Highveld tour, but that isn't the Highveld, but that was just the name of the tour. But anyway, the event was your concert at the Tal Monument. Suddenly it was at Velbedocht, and where's Velbedocht? I don't know that. It's near Wellington. Anyway, so I went there, and I'd asked because you had mentioned Skulkberger, and I assumed the younger Skulkberger. I didn't think about the older. Yeah.
So
I said, the senior one.
Right. So I said, can you give me his number? I want to interview him. And you did. And I called him, and I'm like, this guy, I've met Skulk before. I've met him in New Jersey or in Philadelphia when he came to a game when he was playing for Saracens. And I'm like, this doesn't sound like Skulk. I'm like, are you the father? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's right. You were a Springbok too. He didn't take.
That's right. We're both brilliant Springboks.
He didn't take offense, but anyway. So I said, no. Steve gave me your number. I'm coming to the concert, and I'd like to come over and I'd like to interview. So I interviewed him. He's a fantastic host. But when I got there, he said, so Steve invited you. I said, yeah, but I bought a ticket. I'm trying to support things. He said, well, where's your wristband? I said, what wristband? He said, VIP. You need a VIP wristband. So he got me a VIP wristband, and I got to meet his other kids, his other son, and such. And we sat up there and think. But I was walking back from the stage when one of the warm-up acts was out there warming up for your concert, and this guy walks out of the little outbuilding there for the wine room where all the stuff was. You were in there, and he goes, "Are you Mr. Chris?" And I said, "I suppose I am." He says, "Come here." I'm like, "Oh, what's going on here? Where they lead me?" Okay, so I walk inside, and there's Steve Hofmeyr, and so you and I started chatting, and at this point, we had met. I'd been to your house, but we started chatting like we've known each other for 30 years. And I could see your manager going through DTs like he was withdrawing from crack cocaine, or drugs. Okay, he's not tapping his watch, but it's like, hey, Steve's got to get on the stage. Yeah. But you kept talking, I kept talking. Finally, I'm like, hey, Steve, you know what? I think your manager's going to have a Herzinfarkt, a heart attack here. Maybe I should go and let you get on stage. But it was just this amazing, and that was when you made me come up on stage and sing with you. But what a great day that was, and what a great concert. You did it the whole weekend. I think that I went to the one performance, but it was amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, let me pay our promoters and managers to get our attacks on our behalf. We can talk for as long as we want to, and we arrive when we want to, and we sing what the hell we want to. It was a great time. I remember that. I'm glad you remember that. Yeah, I'd like to go back to that farm to do it again. There were a couple of thousand people. Both the burgers, the Skald burgers, the two families. I love them both. There's still a good thing going out there this weekend. I played in the Paarl, which is a town 2 towns away from where Skald burgers place was. You just keep on meeting. I just kept enforcing everything I know about my people, that they're still good, they are strong. When we get together, we smile, we laugh loud, we eat some of the best meat in the world, man. And we're not scared. We drink with power, and then we work hard against the odds. Yeah, I'm very honored and grateful to be an Afrikaner, and I'm very proud about it. And I say it everywhere I go. And I call myself a Boer Afrikaner, just to get some of the history of it in as well, And thank you. I get an idea you understand that, and your understanding is appreciated. You bring your geopolitical knowledge to us, and we feel that somebody is seeing us, and you've done that over and over.
Well, I do, and I get quite a payback. I have to tell you, Steve, when I do my meet and greets in the past, I've, Ronaldo convinced me to go to IJsselfontein, a place I'd never been. I'd never been up the West Coast before a couple years ago. He said, you'll love it. It's amazing. And so I set up a meet and greet, and several people said they'd come. And I had a meet and greet, and nobody arrived. It was just me at the meet and greet. But I mean, that's okay. I mean, I got a coffee, I got something to eat, cappuccino. And then one of the gentlemen, I was actually standing in the street before when I checked in my hotel. And this lady came out and started speaking to me in Afrikaans, and I had my back to her because I was unloading the boot of the car to take my bag into the hotel. And I could understand what she's saying. I'm like, is she talking to me? And I turn around, and she's like, yeah, oh, you're the Colonel. I'm like, yeah. Oh, my son loves your show. His name is Jock, and I'm thinking, Jock, he must be a big boor. And he was a big boor. This guy's huge. Anyway, so he's up in the car, and she's like carrying the stuff out of the shop. I said, let's go embarrass him. He's making his mother carry the stuff out. Why isn't he in the store? So I went up, and he came later on. And then later that evening, someone else came up to me. But what I want to, not to drone on about the story, is that so sometimes nobody shows up meet and greet in my previous meet and greets. Sometimes they get 40, 50 people. But on this last trip, it was so heartwarming. And they're not all Afrikaners. There's also English-speaking South Africans, and some coloreds come to my program, a few black South Africans. But the overwhelming outpouring of emotion and love. When I went to Strand, down near Gordons Bay, and my first meet and greet on the trip, when I didn't announce I was coming because of the death threat, so I said I didn't tell anybody. I just came to the country and then set up. And on barely a day's notice, 150 people showed up at the Kapstadt Brauhaus. And when I walked up to the building with my friends outside, there were like 25 people downstairs wanting autographs and everything. I felt like Steve Hofmeyr, man. It was crazy. And then I go up the stairs. Except I can't sing. I go up the stairs, and there's like 100 plus people in the restaurant, the entire restaurant, and they just break into applause. And it's absolutely amazing. The reception
wonderful
from South Africa.
Wonderful. You certainly deserve that. And it's, humble beginnings, but it's going to grow. And you can see by now you're picking the fruits of good labor, hard work, intelligence work. Yeah, in South Africa, I think your fan base is growing. Soon I'll be an opening act for you. Just watch out.
I don't know about that, but let me cover a couple more super chats before I let you go. Peace 5139
Right.
said 140 Rand says thanks for being you. I assume he meant you. Maybe means me. Maybe means both of us. Duncan Brayton, I don't know what that is, said I have to agree with most people watching a magic interview chat. Thanks, Chris and Steve. 140 Rand. Thank you so much for that. And with that, Steve, I think we can. We got Anton says thank you, Steve. I've never listened to your music. My mom was in love with you, but today I'm looking forward to hear you speak again. Wow, there you go. So maybe I've brought you some new fans. Wow, that's exciting. All right, Steve Hofmeyr, I'll give you the stage. I always give my guests the last comment. Anything you want to talk about? Music, politics, life, love, adventures, the Karoo. And if the Karoo gets you excited, whichever, it's yours. The floor is yours. Go ahead and take a moment.
No, thank you so much, Chris. I think we've covered pretty much everything. I've never been much of a preachy guy. I certainly am not the moral example for things. As a fairly fallible guy, I've had a great career, and I'm very grateful for it. I think if we see each other as humans again, it does help to show our achievements. They just look better. We don't expect gods out there. It's normal people doing incredible things. The thing you mentioned now about the colored and the black people, as we call them in South Africa, I'm not sure if you can still call them that in America, but we do in South Africa because they're certainly distinguishable groups. That although I have a lot of conflict with the black ideology and I fight with them all the time, I am 3-4 times a day astounded by black people and astounded by brown people who come to me and say, Meneer Hofmeyr, I grew up with your music. And it is such an honor to meet you. And please, can I just stand here for a short while and ask you a few questions, and then I'll go. And I get that from black and brown people, and then I have to recheck my prejudices as well. And I'm so glad it happens 4 times a day. And that's why I can say, when I say I love South Africans, I really mean all South Africans. When I get off a bus or off an aeroplane or out of a car, I'm surrounded by wonderful black people who want a good selfie. And then I know that I will stay and I will fight, and I'll have enough people fighting on my side, and they'll be of all colors as well. For that South Africa, I'm willing to die for. And thank you very much. You've made me love my country more, and South Africans make me love my country more, and I can't wait to see South Africans in other countries as well. That's simple as that. And thank you for loving the music. There's 38 albums out there. I wrote 230 songs that have been recorded, so you have to find one of them that you like. Let me know if you do. Thank you very much.
Well, Steve, I've written 150 AI songs, so I'm catching up with you.
That's cheating, by the way. That is cheating.
Hey, I have.
Thank you very much.
I have zero talent, so I have to cheat.
Hey, but you must place that song that you wrote for me, which I really appreciate. I'm sure it's got to be flagged. It doesn't belong to you. I thought it's a very good song. In fact, it brought a tear to my eye. I went, oh, this sounds like a complete autobiography. I love it. Thank you very much. I like your song.
Well, I will publish that song, but I like to put some images or video to it. If you've got something you don't mind sending me privately that I can put in the video, just to, from your life and a sequence, a timeline, then I'll put that to the music. And I got one last thing for you. So Rob Hersoff, back last summer, so it would be wintertime for you in South Africa, did a video in which he sent a message to Donald Trump, and one of the recommendations he said to help fix South Africa, he said he should nominate Chris Wyatt to be an ambassador at large for minorities in South Africa. That's what he said. So I did a poll yesterday when we had like 1,300 people still watching the program when Ramaphosa was finished talking, and out of 1,285 votes, 94% of the people said they would nominate me to be an ambassador at large for minorities in South Africa. So Steve Hofmeyr, would you nominate me to be an ambassador at large for minorities in South Africa?
I would most certainly. You will have that place in my cabinet anytime. Are you going to be doing it from here, or are you going to do it in South Africa?
Well, if Trump did it, that would be an ambassadorial position. I don't know that that's in the cards, but this point, I think I'm just going to self-nominate myself and appoint myself. It's an at-large thing. So
he should make you ambassador in South Africa. Yeah, we already have a friend in you. You like all South Africans as well. So come on, come do it. Thank you very much. Yeah. Politics isn't out of the question for me, but maybe a bit later.
All right, Steve, pleasure. Have a good one, and say hi to your lovely family and your little daughter and your wife. And I miss you guys, and hopefully I'll be there before you know it. But it's always a question of time coordination and my consulting responsibilities, and always the money it comes down to. But hopefully we'll see you guys soon. So Merry Christmas to you and the family.
And to you, Merry Christmas, good New Year. We'll see you in the New Year when you come down here. Don't even warn me. You'll always have a place here. You'll always be welcome. And thank you for a great time. It felt like I just sat with you outside on the fire and we had a chat as we usually do and find various things interesting. Yeah, thank you very much. Next time we can speak about politics. We kind of evaded. It was wonderful, but we spoke about music, which is my passion. Thank you for that. Have a good Christmas, sir.
Likewise. The only thing missing was brandy and cigars. We'll have to do that next time.
All right. Next time. Next time.
All right, folks. Steve Hofmeyr, the Jason Ista and Ista. Okay, there you go. He's going to drop off.
Take care.
There.
Thank you.
All right. Cool beans. So he'll take off there, and let me get him. Okay, he's off the phone. Hey, thanks for tuning in, folks. I really appreciate it. We ran long on this, but I expected that. It's been 5 years and 3 months since Steve was last on the program, so I knew we were going to run over. But I hope you enjoyed this. I think many people saw a different side of Steve Hofmeyr that they weren't really familiar with today, and that's what I hope to accomplish here, and also share some things just to talk about it. Anyway, it is now December 1st. I paid my mortgage last night, and I'm paying my bills, and so it's that time of the month. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in here. And please be sure to hit the like button. Thank you all for the super chats. I need to go back. I think I might have missed a few super chats in the beginning because of what was going on. Let me just double check. I don't want to shortchange anybody to the super chat. That's why I'm hanging around here for a second. So I need to go to, where's it at here? Come on, it's under here, I think. I know, there it is. It's right there. I had the wrong button there. Super chats. Let me go back and see what I got here. Okay. All right. So let me go back. Yeah, there were quite a few at the beginning. Helgard Potgieter gave 35 rand, said, Lekker Steve, your legend. Your legend. And the student gave 35 rand. Thank you for that. A super sticker. Another 35 rand super sticker. And then Madeline said, 2 legends in one chat for 50 rand. And then student gave another 70 rand super chat. I apologize for not, super sticker for not seeing that earlier, student. And then Mad Max, I think I caught all of them after that, including Ronaldo Salo Papa there. Franklin Foundation gave 10 rand. Thank you for that, Franklin. I'm sorry I missed. You said kudos to Colonel Legend Steve. My daily return is great. I did catch those two, and then I think I caught everyone else. Elsa gave a super sticker for 140 rand. Steve, love your show and music. The Blau Bull still gives me goosebumps and good memories, says David Furry. I think I missed that one. Half agree with most people watching a magic interview, says Duncan de Arberton, and you're very welcome. And I apologize if I missed anybody. If I did miss your super chat, just let me know in a future one, and I will give you a notice, and we'll give you a little nudge there and give you credit for that. Okay, so thanks everybody for tuning in. Still got a number of people here. I will probably do the news. Do you all want the news? Give me some feedback real quick. But I'm going to need to take a break, and I'll do the news at the top of the next hour and prep for it. If you would like a news broadcast today, if you want it, I can do one at the top of the hour. And then Manny van Rooyen says, thanks for a great live stream. Have a great afternoon. Everyone be safe and sweet. Conrad says yes. Mad Max says yes. Okay, all right. Then I'll do the news in a half an hour, okay? So please tune in a half an hour for the news. Look for it, and we'll see you guys here. And I don't know if we get an audience this big, but it'd be really great if we did. And to my guest, Steve Hofmeyr, it was epic. Yea, is an legend, as Kurt Darren would say. Yea, is an Easter. So thank you all very much, and I really appreciate it. We'll be back here shortly, and hang tight, guys. News is coming up shortly. Thanks, everybody. God bless, and have a good afternoon for those who have to depart. Cheers.